Inside the Birds is back. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Birds pregame live presented by DraftKings. We are normally at the Goose Island Brew House, but we will not be there going forward. Today, all of us are here at Pinot's Palette. That is the studio owned by Trey Thomas and his wife, Rosa, and we thank them for allowing us to use their studios here. Before we get started and more in for that, I'm, of course, Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds. This is my Inside the Birds co-host Adam Kaplan. You just heard me mention him. There's the former Eagles Pro Bowl left tackle right there, Trey Thomas.
Yes.
With his glass of wine.
Yes, breakfast wine.
Breakfast wine. I've heard of dessert wine. I've heard of dinner wine. Breakfast
when
wine.
you have it this early, it's medicinal.
Okay, medicinal wine.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. Do you need a card for that, or you just drink it?
It's all right. You just go ahead.
All right, there you go. And of course, back after a 1 week respite, we bring back Greg Cosell, as always, our tape breakdown guru. What's going on, Greg?
Jeff, good to be back.
Good to be back. Lots happened since you've been gone.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so your role today will be to fight with Trey Thomas the way Jamal Jackson did when he filled in for you. They had some good offensive line talk. Are you ready to get in on that?
I leave the offensive line talk to Trey.
That's it. He is the expert. As we mentioned, we just do want to thank our friends from Goose Island Brew House for being great partners. Obviously, COVID-19 restrictions forced them to have to shut down, at least for now, and therefore we won't be able to do for the show from there. But we wish everybody at Goose Island the best, and we hope that we all make it through this pandemic together, and we can be back there sometime in the future. For now, as I mentioned, we're at Pinot's Palette. Now, Trey, tell the viewers what Pinot's Palette is and your involvement.
Oh, it's an art studio. As you can see, we have different paintings all around. So it's a painting sip. So you come in, you go to our website, Pinot's Palette at /Cherry Hill, to check out our calendar, and you come in and paint, man. You bring whatever you like to drink, whatever's your snacks or whatever you like to drink, your wine or whatever, and you come in and we'll walk you through how to get through some of these paintings.
Sure. Now, you and your incredible wife, Rosa, are the actual instructors of this, correct?
No, we're the owners.
No,
Like
I'm
Every now and then I will instruct the class, but she wouldn't instruct the class, but most of the times, like sometimes if it's a painting that I know I can handle, I get up and instruct the class. Sometimes, if it's something that's fun, but yeah, man, it's something that we started off as like a little date night thing, and then and now here we are 4 years later, something that
Did you paint when you were a player?
No.
Really?
No, I didn't have the mindset for it. Like I said, probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we did it as like a date night thing. And then one Thanksgiving, we went out as our family at a place down in Florida. And did it as a family. And then we were like, you know what, it'd be cool if we open one of these, and here we are.
Well, here we are.
I'm still trying to figure out crayons in a coloring book.
You look like one of those guys.
Yeah, so now I know my colors. I know magenta. I know but it's cool. It's something that's fun. It's different. So I usually come in here a lot and just sit down and work on the painting.
That's good. I'm not a great painter, but I feel like if I drank a lot of wine while I painted, I'd probably be better than if I just tried to do it sober.
It helps release the creative juices.
Well, you'd be more free. You may not be better.
It depends on how your eyes view it at the time, Greg. That's all. All right, as he said, go to pinospalette.com/Cherry Hill and check out the schedule so you can get involved if you want to do a little date night and painting courtesy of the Thomases. Thank you. Also, if you're watching, please take a second right now to share the show on whatever platform you're watching it on. If you are a YouTube user, please hit the like button. Give us a like. They go a long way. And also, if you leave a question or a comment in the box on the side, we will try to answer it. You can ask anybody on the panel, or you can make a comment, and we will do our best to get to them. As we do have a lot to talk about today, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, because I feel like I've said this for the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's kind of a big game for the Eagles today. They got to go to Lambeau Field. They're playing a red-hot Packers team. I would like to say their season's on the line, but with the NFC East, it's perhaps not. But it really is, because the Eagles, obviously, with a 3-game losing streak, need to change what's going on. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into the play calling. We'll get into Aaron Rodgers, take a few deep dives into what's going on with the team elsewhere. I want to start real quick by some good news, because the Eagles seem to get healthier by the week. And obviously, tight end Zach Ertz is expected to return to action today for the first time since he sprained his ankle week 6 against the Baltimore Ravens. And that means, theoretically, you should have both Zach Ertz, both Dallas Goedert on the field today. Adam, what is your understanding of the expectations of Zach Ertz today?
Yeah, I think what'll happen is particularly in passing situations. Third down, let's say it's second and very long, you're probably going to see Zach in there with Goddard. And also Goddard, as we know, has been a really good blocker for the run game, but as a pass catcher, he's been phenomenal. I don't see Zach crushing Dallas Goedert's role in the pass game. Some people are concerned about that. I don't see that. I think they'll complement each other. But where it's really going to help them is obvious passing situations, where Zach has been phenomenal. Prior to this year, he was their big third down guy who'd get a first down. That's where he's going to really help them today. And we'll get into the other big news of the week, which is Jordan Howard. You and I talked about it on our Friday show. But getting Zach back here, I do believe they're going to play a lot more 12 personnel. Doug Peterson, I think if he had his druthers, they'd be more 11. But you have to count for Zach Ertz. You have to, because he can't help the football team.
And we'll get into whether or not that helps out Carson Wentz even more, because as we've seen throughout the year, when he does throw the ball well, it tends to be to the tight end position, whether it's Goddard, even Richard Rodgers, and now Zach Ertz coming back.
That's right,
Well, that's hurting Rodgers.
It is hurting Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers,
It's been a good story.
I mean, Rodgers has been coming along, but, hey, Zach is back, so you need his comfort blanket.
I like what Richard Rodgers has given, and I've even talked on the podcast about if you have a chance to bring this guy back on a short-term deal, not a lot of money, knowing that you've had injuries at the tight end position, and also knowing that there's some uncertainty with Zach Ertz going forward, that Richard Rodgers is seemingly a pretty good number 2. He's proven to have, or number 3 tight end. I mean, at this point, I think that would be a good offseason.
The only issue for him is health. He's been hurt quite a bit, but this year he stayed healthy. And he's, as Trey was talking about the security blanket for Ertz, Ertz and Wentz, are very close. Bill Polian came on Inside the Birds TV recently and said, that's part of it. Not having Ertz, a guy that he's counted on in the past, particularly years past, I think has been an issue, and hopefully this will help build Carson's confidence.
Sure. As we move on, very quickly, there was a report this morning from the NFL Network from Ian Rappaport. It basically said that the owner, it's kind of known, the owner is not very happy with what's gone on with the Eagles this year.
Is that a big report, that the owner's not very happy?
Yeah, that's a report that, shockingly enough, he's not happy that the team is 3-7-1.
Normally the owner is happy, so it's big news that he's not happy.
Hey, I'm just the messenger here, Greg. But
I'm just trying to figure out why that's a big report.
No, there was more to it. I was building.
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit more.
And according to Ian Rappaport's sources in the building have said that there's no guarantee that Doug Peterson's going to keep his job if this continues. So, Adam, I want to go back to you, because what I find interesting is you reported after the Dallas game, which was their last win, that Jeffrey was starting to show signs of being very, very unhappy. And that was a game that they won, albeit it wasn't pretty, but they won. And here we are weeks later where they have not yet won and continue to sink.
Yeah, Jeff, after the Dallas game, the way it was explained to me was the owner was frustrated with the direction of the offense. That game, they only scored 15 points on offense. Sure, their defense has been playing well. The defense is quite frankly carrying the team to a certain extent, but the offense isn't carrying its own water, which they need to do. And it's not a secret. Everyone's frustrated with the offense. And they got to get it going here. And you just wonder, Jeff, with every report you see and you hear, if this team does not make the playoffs, this could get ugly in January. That's kind of where it is.
We are at the point where it's fairly ugly, and you wonder if rock bottom is here, or if this team is going to continue to lose, and it's going to
What's rock bottom, though?
That's what I meant. If they're going to continue to lose,
the offense is about as rock bottom as it gets, right?
Correct.
Now you get Ertz back. The offensive line has had all these changes. Why would we all expect the offense to take off? Now, there might be something coming today that we weren't expecting about a week ago. We'll get into that, but the fact of the matter is, you just said their last win was against Dallas. And the offense that night was pitiful. Let's call it like it is.
Sure. Also in that report, the NFL Network report by Ian Rappaport, he said that there were meetings going on within the NovaCare complex to discuss the current state of the team. I can confirm that's true, and I know that there was a players meeting, but I also know that coaches met together, and they are meeting to figure out how they can figure this out, what they can do. There is a heightened sense of urgency, as I'm told, to figure this thing out, because they know that there will be accountability if this thing continues. Go ahead.
Just wanted to ask you a question off what you just said. Were the coaches involved? Okay, so there was a players-only meeting?
No, I was told that there was a players meeting. Okay. I was also told there was a meeting involving coaches, players, and Howie Roseman about how to figure this thing out.
Okay, yeah. All right, so at least they're trying to collectively try to figure this out, what's going wrong.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say, Trey, I'll go to you. I mean, everybody is looking around right now, and they know that the owner's not happy, and they know that when things go south, changes are made. So everybody's seeing the writing on the wall. As players, do you remember what players' meetings were like when things were tough and what they accomplished?
Yeah, they really didn't. Yeah, you bring everybody in there and everybody's like, oh yeah, we need to do this, we need to do that. All right, but all of our player meetings stayed behind closed doors. So to me, if you're gonna have a players-only meeting, don't run out and run to the first beat writer and say, hey, we just had a players meeting and this is what we talked about, because it loses its sizzle. It loses its purpose of the meeting. Sometimes you need to just keep it behind closed doors and let it work within the group. And then once it produces itself, once you go out there and you get a win against a team, then you say, hey man, well, you know what? We had a players meeting leading up into this game. But instead, it seems to me, anytime they have meetings like this, the first thing they do is they run out to a beat writer and say, hey man, you know what? We just had this meeting and Carson stood up in front of everybody and we had an airing of grievances. Because I mean, what's the purpose of it?
Right.
If you're going to go out and the meeting always leaves outside of the meeting room. So you may as well just go ahead and have a Zoom meeting for everybody to be involved in it if this is how you're going to continue to carry it on. Let
me also ask this. When you're meeting, because things have gone so badly, is there anything said that doesn't already address the obvious that things are going really bad? I feel like, you're meeting to figure out how to fix it. Well, I mean, I would think that the last 2 or 3 weeks you've been trying to figure out how to fix it anyway. What is new, or is it just better to clear the air?
You try to clear the air, but the problem is that no one wants to step on anybody's toes in those meetings. So you're never going to be all the way honest with someone where you just be like, hey, you know what, you missed the block here. You need to tighten up a little bit, and I need you to, you know what I'm saying?
But they know that anyway.
Yeah, they know that anyway. But my problem is, why do they keep having to put Carson in the front of it all the time? It's always like, hey, man, I just talked to Carson. I encourage Carson to go out there and tell everybody that, hey, you know what, I haven't been playing up the par. Well, what about everybody else? Why isn't Kelsey stepping up and saying, you know what, man, that was my fault that it was a false start, that I forgot that it was my turn. I should have snapped the ball, or I shouldn't snap the ball over your head. Why isn't JP stepping up and saying, hey, man, you know what, I missed a couple blocks to make it where you to protect you a little bit better? Why is it always has to be on Carson's shoulders?
Listen, it took you 15 minutes to start beating up the offensive line.
Not even just the offensive line.
I had the under on that.
Press Taylor, the receiver coaches. Why does it always have to be Carson?
Yeah, well,
because it's not just him.
It's not, you know how it is, and I think Doug Peterson said this. It's always the head coach and the quarterback.
Right.
But I'd like to think on this show we do a good job of diagnosing everything that's going wrong from top to bottom. So
Do you
I
think we
agree
need a
with you,
meeting
Trey.
for that, though?
Say that?
Do we need a meeting for that, or are we okay?
Don't give away our secrets. This is all spontaneous.
Actually, we never have had one.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, speaking of Carson Wentz, at some point today, we're going to give you information on how to win an autographed Carson Wentz jersey. We've given, courtesy of our friends at Sky Motor Cars. We've given one away already. We're going to do it again, so make sure you're listening and paying attention to get your chance to win. Real quick, we'll go through the injuries for both teams, and we already mentioned Zach Ertz. As for the offense, that's really it. I mean, Quez Watkins did not travel with the team. He has an illness. I don't think he was going to play anyway, so that's not a big deal. But good news for the defense as far as Fletcher Cox, TJ Edwards, Darius Slay. Cox had the neck injury. We missed a little bit of practice. TJ Edwards had the hamstring, missed some practice, and Darius Slay also with the calf. But I believe, Adam, they were full on Friday, correct?
Yeah, Cox and Edwards. The good thing is they took their normal work on Friday. They don't even have an injury designation for the game, so that's a good thing there. Now with Slay, he was added to the injury report after Thursday's practice. He was limited on Friday, but my understanding is, barring a setback in pregame, he should play. Got to watch these calf strains or calf injuries with guys who've got to run and stop and start, but boy, they need him today to go against Devontae Adams, assuming that's going to be the coverage.
No doubt about it. And, of course, Rudy Ford continues to be out. He's their best and fastest special teams player. He's going to miss his third straight game. Packers a little bit more beat up in the injury standpoint. Their rookie running back, A.J. Dillon, is on the COVID-19 list. He's out. Their center, Pro Bowl center, Corey Linsley, will be out with a knee injury, and they're going to move, I believe, their guard.
Jenkins, well, he's played the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
right.
And then John Runyon's kid plays left guard.
Runyon
That's
Jr.
right. We are going to see John Runyon Jr.
Yeah.
Now Linsley played last, so he started the game. He tried
Last
to go
week,
through
and
it.
then he came out
and
after
then he came
maybe
out.
second or third possession.
Right.
But the week before, Linsley got hurt as well.
Correct.
And they moved Jenkins over. So Jenkins will play center and Runyon will play left.
How
guard.
did Runyon Jr. play?
I thought the week before I didn't think he was very good.
Okay.
I thought he was better last week.
Now he plays guard when Jenkins
playing
was
left
the
guard.
center.
Left guard.
Yeah.
But he was a tackle.
He was a
at
tackler
Michigan.
at Michigan.
All right. What do you where do you think he's best suited?
With his size, I think he'll probably be a better guard in this league. It's a lot of stuff that he needs to work on. He needs to clean up his technique a little bit. You know, you caught him lunging a couple times where he was trying to be a little too aggressive on the player, got thrown around a little bit. But I think that as he continues to progress, he could be something in this league. I think he's going to be all right.
Okay.
I mean, to play off Trey, again, I don't know all the subtleties the way Trey does, but the one thing that does stand out is he does tend to be a waist bender.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's
And
a
that's
leader.
always a problem.
Yeah.
The offensive line it is. Yep. Yep.
All right, on defense for the Packers, Zadarius Smith, who is their best outside edge rusher, outside linebacker, has been missing practice with an ankle injury. Now he's questionable to play, if I'm not mistaken.
He is, Jeff, and that this is something that they got to keep an eye on. My sense is he probably would play, but that would certainly be impactful. Is Gary the former first-round pick? How much does Rashawn Gary play?
right?
Yeah, how much does he play?
Probably plays about 50% of the snaps, so Smith does not go. But see, that would impact their sub packages because, and we'll get more into this, but they're a sub-dime team. They play dime more than any team in the league. And what they often do with their sub-dime front is Zadarius Smith moves inside.
Right.
And that really helps them because he's a load for guards and centers. And so if he's gone, that changes what their sub-front is.
All right. Speaking of dime, the Eagles released their kind of dime safety with Will Parks this week, which was an interesting move. They elevated Graylin Arnold from the practice squad. Doug Peterson said there'll probably be more time in place of Parks for guys like rookie Kevon Wallace and Marcus Epps. In the past, they've kind of used one versus run, one versus pass.
Right.
Quentin Michael has joined us at one point and said, I don't know how often you want to do that and be predictable, but Greg, I want to ask you real quick about Will Parks because you were one of several people who were kind of enthused about that kind of signing and thought that there was a real opportunity there.
I can't speak to what happened, Jeff. I mean, I'm not there in the building.
Right.
You know, so I can't tell you what happened.
And
but
there's not even that much, it's not like he played so much where you have a lot of tape to say
No.
what he was doing well or not well,
But he
correct?
played a lot in Denver, and he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Which is, I assume, the reason they signed him. And something went wrong.
He got
from-
hurt, which is
yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, but something went wrong from day one here because even when he came back, he was not playing meaningful snaps at all.
Right. Well, that's kind of one of those things where you kind of find out a little bit more as the time goes by. The Eagles cut ways with Sharif Miller from the practice squad again. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has been activated from the COVID-19 list, but I don't know that he'll be active today. We'll have to see when the actives come out later. We know Lane Johnson is on IR. Deontay Burnett also off the practice squad COVID-19 list. And as Adam mentioned before, the elevations of running back Jordan Howard and Raekwon Williams, the defensive tackle, perhaps we see a Jordan Howard influence in the game plan, although I have said just because things were good last year does not mean we assume that this year, where you have a totally different context, that Jordan Howard's going to come up and be a 1-2 punch with Miles Sanders. First, I believe we have to see if he's active today.
I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have put him on the 53-man roster unless they're going to use him. Now the question is, how much will they use him?
Right.
I do believe they'll do this. It's just my sense that you'll see him, not that Corey Clement plays very much on offense, hardly gets any work, but on early downs, you're probably going to see Howard back up Sanders. So this could impact Boston Scott on early downs in terms of carrying the football. He'll still be involved as a pass catcher. But last year, Jeff, that 1-2 punch between Sanders and Howard, it kind of split the time of that Green Bay game, and their run game was phenomenal. In fact, those two series, Jeff, they barely threw the ball more than they ran it. Although they were behind, they kind of came out and said, this is what we're doing, and they stuck with the run even when they got behind, and they actually won the game.
You're talking about the Green Bay game last year, that Thursday nighter?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, they ran the ball extremely well.
Yeah.
And the Packers, well, we'll talk more about it, about their defense, but the
They
Packers
give up a
don't
lot
stop
of run.
the run real well.
Yep.
All right, now we have to move to what's fast becoming for me to be a very special part of the show, and that's when we get our weather update from Tropical Storm Kaplan, who has never failed us with the weather report. And I know we have a little.
It's not supposed to rain there.
No,
It's
actually
not.
mid-30s, but very little wind. So when Aaron Rodgers passes, he might be successful in this game.
Oh,
See
that's-
about number
that's all you
11 on
need
the
to hear.
outside.
I think it's pretty fair to say he's usually successful.
And boy, does he have a quick release.
So real quick, Tropical Storm Kaplan, no rain, no snow,
Nothing,
right?
No,
The wind's
no.
going to be all right.
Wind less than 10 miles an hour. No, this is passing weather, but we'll see who throws the ball and who runs it.
All right. Well, I kind of like an elements game at Green Bay. I always have. So the fact that it's going to be crystal clear, good for the Eagles probably, but also good for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, man, mid-30s is chilly, man.
Oh, you're from Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Would you have sleeves on or no?
Mid-50s.
I would.
You would have sleeves on. Okay.
30s in Green Bay at this time of year, though, is balmy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like, spring for them.
That's chilly, man. That is chilly.
How many times did you play at Lambeau? I'm trying to think. You played a couple of times there,
Yeah,
right?
I played a couple times there.
Did you? I always appreciate it as a reporter, just going there and taking it in. To
Yeah.
me, it was an awesome place.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? Did you
Yeah,
take
I
a minute?
always enjoy it because I played there before they did all the renovations.
Yes.
So it was the old Lambeau Field type feel to it. So it's like certain stadiums have that aura to them, like the Lambeau Field, the old Soldier Field before they made the renovations to it.
Oh, those renovations, by the way, were awful.
Yeah,
Soldier
but it's
Field,
like
yeah.
when you stepped out on the field, you're like, wow,
Right.
this is
Pretty
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah.
As a player, it's pretty cool.
The thing is, you ever been to Green Bay, the city, in the spring?
No.
No.
See, I've in my 41 years in NFL films, I've done interviews there, in the spring, and it's a beautiful little small town because there's a river right in the middle of it. It's really pretty, really pretty.
I've never seen the town.
Yeah.
You just go there and you play.
Yeah,
Just,
no
you
way,
just seen it through the bus. Yeah, it's an
You
amazing
ever went out to
town.
eat anywhere when you were there?
No, it's really a pretty small town.
I did once have pizza in Green Bay. I would
Pretty good?
I would recommend coming back east for your
Yeah,
pizza.
exactly.
All I remember is the big John Deere.
Oh, yeah.
Place that was there.
Right.
Just one thing on the rotation today. Miles Sanders is the starter. Let's not get anyone crazy here.
Right.
But Jordan Howard gives him better size at running back behind. This is what this is why we had said it in the spring. I know the Eagles could not afford him, but he's got. When you coach this player, you got to know what he is. So he goes to the Dolphins. I'm told that Chan Gailey wanted no part of him when the season started. He made him their goal line back. He wouldn't use him for anything else.
Yeah. That's why I say a year later, it's a whole different context.
Yeah. You got to know what he is and what he's not.
All right. By the way, it took 13 weeks, but we finally got a nice memory from Trey about his playing career, so that was good. I was expecting you to say, "Nah, I don't even care about the I don't, stadium, nothing." But we finally got a good memory out of it.
Green Bay was cool.
There you go. All right, let's get into this now. Despite the team's 3-game losing streak and all the turmoil that's been going on, the Eagles really are still percentage points out of first place. A win today would snap their losing streak, and it might sound funny, but they're in it, just like everybody else in the NFC East. So I ask you guys this. I've been wondering this all week, and Trey, I want to start with you. We know that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I know how it works. We know how it works with teams. You're very tunnel vision. You get focused on the next opponent. You reconvene usually on a Wednesday. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around everybody comes to the NovaCare on Wednesday, and we just start preparing for Green Bay the way we have prepared the week before, and the week before, and the week before, and the week before. At what point does that routine have to stop a little bit and say, wait a minute, what we're doing isn't working. We need something to change radically here, and how do we go about doing that?
Well, I think that, first of all, you come back on Wednesdays when you get a win. So this team isn't coming back on Wednesdays. They should be coming back on a Monday or Tuesday, depending on how Doug and them have it set up, whichever day. Because you have to give them off day during the week.
I think the NFLPA doesn't allow them to do if Tuesday's the day off, I think they got to be off, right?
Yeah, so then you come in on Monday then.
Okay, for
So
corrections,
if you have Tuesday off, then you have to come in on Monday. You have to have one day off during the week. So whichever day that you decide as a team to have off, then that it is what it is. But you're not just coming in on Wednesday, especially after you've been getting your behind whooped all throughout this season like this. You're coming in to get that extra day of, all right, film prep, any rehab that needs to happen or whatever, and then you move on from there. But it seems to me that, you would want things to hurry up and change, but what are you going to do that's different? And that's the problem. What's going to happen? Because usually your Wednesdays are going to be your first through second down, whatever, working day, and then your Thursdays is going to be your nickel package. Fridays are going to be your red zone, and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out, what are you going to do that's different to change things up, to spice it up?
That's what I wonder.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Trey would agree with this. I think during the season, it's hard to radically change in a week. That's not going to happen. Now, can you pull out a couple of different plays? Sure, you can do that. But you're not radically changing a philosophical approach. So if they activate Jordan Howard today, so maybe the plan is that we're going to run the ball a little more. But it's not like we're going to have running plays that we have never seen.
Right.
We're just going to run the ball more.
Right.
And with the goal of running against a Packers defense that has not been very good stopping the run. So you want to run the ball a little more, but you can't drastically change anything during the season, Jeff. It doesn't work like that.
No, I only remember very small, like, for example, this was a long time ago. The Miami Dolphins had lost, I think, their first 10 or 11 games. I can't remember the Parcells guy who used to coach the offensive line. The
late Tony Sperano?
Tony Sperano, yeah, the late Tony Sperano.
Are you talking about when they went to the Wildcat?
Well, that was one, but no, I remember he changed practice schedule. He knew that because they're in Miami and playing, he started practicing way later in the day, and they would wind up winning a few more games. But they were a bad team.
But that's not changing tactics.
Correct.
That's just trying to change the routine.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe guys, get a little more, juice in their step, so to speak. But that's not changing the tactics of how you play.
What you can do is get a different voice.
Right.
It could be play calling.
Right.
Just how you speak to guys on game, whatever it is. But changing up the play caller is drastic. Now, Joe Banner told us on Inside the Birds TV, this floored me. Because we'd known that Andy Reid did it once or twice. He would hand it off to Marty Mornhinweg. Banner said he did it a lot over the years.
Apparently Andy Reid did it a lot, and even situationally, not just for a full game.
You had someone else to call?
Yeah, a lot. And it's funny because talking to other teams, they don't want the other team to know who's calling the plays because what happens is you see tendencies.
Right.
Maybe this guy takes these base plays and doesn't call them as much. Maybe he calls other plays. So, which are obviously all still in the playbook. But I find it fascinating that everyone's so carried away with who's going to call plays.
Right.
Well, and just to play off that, this summer I spent a lot of time talking to coaches and some former quarterbacks. And let's say it's third down and 4 to 7. Okay, you have maybe 6 or 7 plays that the quarterback knows are coming in. Now, they can be from different formations, but you have plays, concepts. Let's speak in terms of concepts. So those concepts are not going to dramatically change. You're not all of a sudden going to go in this week and have 8 new concepts that you haven't done up to this point in the season.
Right.
That's
it's the same people who make the playbook that are together in the meetings.
So you might change, if you change a play caller, maybe, as Adam said, there's tendencies, maybe of those 6 third down plays, Doug Peterson likes to call 3 of them, and everybody knows that, hey, those are the 3 you're likely to get, and maybe if it's a different play caller, you get the other 3, and that's what you get that's different. But it's not as if the whole world changes.
Sure. Now, you guys are the masters, Zen masters of the segue, because I wanted to get into the play calling, because Doug Peterson did acknowledge this week that a change in play caller is could be on the table. Everything is on the table. Some reports came out earlier in the week that he already had handed off some play calling. And I want to play a part of Doug Peterson's video where he talked about the idea of everything being on the table, including play calling. So let's listen to Doug Peterson from earlier this week.
Zach, that's such a harsh question, man. You said use the word resistant.
Because
I take pride in play calling.
What's that?
Yeah, I know. I take pride in play calling, and I look at everything. I got to take everything into consideration, and if I feel like if I get stuck or in a rut, I definitely would consider giving that up. So it's definitely on the table. I wouldn't say that's off the table, but that's also part of sparking the offense and maybe seeing the offense through somebody else's eyes.
All right, that was Eagles coach Doug Peterson from earlier in this week about everything being on the table. Adam, what do you know so far about what's gone on from a play calling standpoint?
All right, so a couple of things. First of all, if you remember some weeks ago when he was asked about it, he was almost defiant. It's what he loves to do, and it didn't sound like it was on the table. So all of a sudden, he says it's on the table. Now, there was an NFL Network report on Saturday that Press Taylor called the plays of the second half last week. I've known about this. I've heard it. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's not like they're scoring a lot of points, as I was saying earlier here. You might as well change it up because it's just not working. Now,
they did have more success, by the way, in the second half, from a yards standpoint, I believe, in points in the second half than they did in the first. I don't know if that's ebb and flow of a game or if it's the switch in play callers.
Right, and I think the Inquirer had a report that Scangarello was helping maybe on third downs. Or you saw their 2-minute package, which Doug Peterson said was there were 5 minutes left in the first half against Seattle, and they went to the 2-minute package. And they did go down and score the touchdown, so who knows? But at this point, you have to try something different. I think that's what you were talking about, changing it up a little bit. So good for Peterson to do it. My sense is it's a collective decision. It's not just, okay, he decides to do it. In that building, it's typically collaborative. Let's call it. We know that.
Yeah, so you mentioned collaborative, but you also said that Peterson has leaned into Press Taylor here, which is a little surprising because he's the passing game coordinator, and it's not like the passing game has been smooth going since day one. And you also talked about Rich Scangarello. A name you did not mention, but someone on our board who's already left a comment here, Philly Flyers, says, will Doug give Deuce Staley a chance to call plays since he's the assistant head coach? And there is somebody, Torrey Smith, retweeted me earlier this week and felt that Deuce Staley also should be given a chance. He's not someone who has called plays for this organization, but I'd like to hear from all of you on that just because he hasn't had that responsibility, is there some reason why he shouldn't be given it if things continue to go the way they go? Trey, I mean, you know Deuce. I mean, do you think that's a fair?
Yeah, I think he should be given the opportunity. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you give him the opportunity as an offensive coordinator, then that's his way to move up within the system. For whatever reason, it seems like he's being held back. And I don't understand why. Why is Press Taylor being jumped over Deuce when, Deuce has been, has a very extremely good track record in the NFL right now as an assistant coach? You put him in there. You made him your assistant coach, but you don't want to make him an offensive coordinator.
Assistant head coach, by the way.
Assistant head coach, but for him to get a look as being a head coach, he has to have that offensive coordinator title under him. But for whatever reason, it's like Doug is like, all right, I want to skip over you, Deuce, and go to Press Taylor. When Doug was fast-tracked into the system, why not give the same look to somebody that you played with?
Some people think that if you do that, all of a sudden the team is going to become a run-oriented team.
I don't think
I don't
so.
know
Look
that
at
that's a
what
fair
Eric
label.
Bieniemy is doing out there in Kansas City.
Great example.
He was a running back, and he came under Andy Reid, so he's not always just run. And I think Andy Reid has done a good job of grooming him to be able to move on to the next level.
Right. Well, we got meetings now. We got change in play callers. And all of this is designed for the same thing, really. And I think it's to get Carson Wentz out of the funk that he has been in all year and see if maybe a different play caller or different voice is a fresher perspective for him. Go ahead.
And remember, he's very close. It's not a secret. Wentz and Press Taylor have a very close working relationship. So maybe this different voice will help. Because at this point, we're talking about Deuce Staley. Something's got to happen that's positive. They've got to try something else. And they're running out of answers here. If it doesn't work this week, by the way, if they lose this week, they will clinch that they will have a losing record this season.
Wow, amazing.
The first time since 2016.
Amazing. Trey, the idea of a coach, a position coach, and the position, there's got to be I would think that there's usually a line. Like if you're a position coach, you coach the play. You don't just coach that quarterback, you coach the others. And that's your job. Is there a danger in having too close of a relationship between the coaches and players?
Absolutely, I think there is, because there's no correction. Like if you're buddy with that player, you don't want to say anything that's going to ruffle their feathers. You don't want to hurt their feelings, or say something that's going to make them, that could put a strain on the relationship. And for me, like Juan and I are extremely cool. We've gone and done dinner after I stopped playing, but while I was playing, there was no, hey man, let's go hang out or do anything like that. It was like there was once I walk out of the meeting room or once we get out of there, that's it. I come back in and we do what we need to do. But I don't want to have a relationship that he feels like he can't correct me. As a player, that's what I want. I need correction. If I mess up, I need you to come tell me that I messed up, and then I respect you for that, and then we move on. But I don't want someone that's all buddy if we doing dinner and all this other stuff. That's too much to me, just because when it comes times for correction, you're a little bit hesitant.
Right. All right. Well,
that's very fair.
I think it's absolutely fair, and I think that's the whole. It's like being a parent to your children. You can love them up, but at some point you have to show tough love as well.
Jeff, how many times have we said this since we started the show in 2018, the spring of 2018, that Wentz needs hard coaching? Not a secret. Then others have said that as well.
Correct.
It's not a secret. He's a type A. He needs hard coaching. You've seen his mechanics regress. And Press Taylor's the guy who's worked with him very closely. He became the quarterback's coach in 2018. So whether it's been a good decision or not, and by the way, with Doug Peterson giving up play calling at least part of the time, maybe Peterson coaches him harder.
We will see. We have talked about Carson Wentz's inaccuracy. We've talked about his mechanics. We've talked about field vision. And with help from our friends at Leverage Studios, we went inside the film room to take a look at Carson Wentz over the last few weeks and some of the common denominators we're seeing with his issues. So we're going to go right now and take a look inside the film room on what we've seen from Carson Wentz's struggles. Wentz's mechanics and vision have failed him throughout the season, and his baffling hesitation to throw to wide-open receivers goes back early this year. This is week 3 against the Bengals after Wentz drove the offense to the Bengals' 9-yard line. Deshaun Jackson is the number 2 receiver in a 3-by-1 formation to the left side and runs a quick in versus the Bengals' man defense. Jackson breaks inside at the 5 and creates immediate separation. He's there for the walk-in touchdown. Wentz looked his way from the start, but just never pulled the trigger. He pump fakes and takes off, instead picking up a few yards. Later in the same game, Wentz will have a chance to strike deep to Zach Ertz. Ertz and Richard Rodgers are aligned next to left tackle, with Ertz offset. The Bengals creep a safety into the box for a 7-man front, leaving one safety deep. Ertz and Rodgers both release as the Eagles look to go vertical against the single safety look. Ertz creates separation on his post with a double move that gets the corner turned. This should have been a timed connection between Wentz and Ertz, with Carson delivering as Ertz makes his initial break. But Wentz, for some reason, throws a check down that Miles Sanders can't corral for an incompletion. Just 2 weeks ago against the Browns, the Eagles had a gift wrap opportunity as Jalen Reagor lined up in the left slot with nobody across him. Reagor sells the play action, then breaks out toward the sideline and remains wide open. Wentz stares him down, but he hesitates, then pays the price as the blitzing corner isn't picked up and drills the QB as he tries to dump the ball off for Miles Sanders. The hit leads to a floating pass that's picked off by Sione Takitaki and returned for a touchdown. Let's run it back. Such an easy connection for Wentz to make. Inexplicable why he wouldn't pull the trigger there. On this 3rd down, the Browns will swap deep safeties before the snap, giving Wentz a favorable matchup of Dallas Goedert versus Carl Joseph. Wentz needs to look the deep safety off to keep that window open for Goddard's one-on-one matchup against Joseph and then fire to Goddard's outside shoulder. Find your guy and pull the trigger. But Wentz never does manipulate the safety, who's able to provide help as Carson tucks the ball under pressure and takes the sack. Next week, same issue, this time against Seattle. The Seahawks show their traditional single-high cover 3 look. Best way to beat a cover 3? Attack vertically and force the safety to make a decision. Watch as slot receivers Greg Ward and Dallas Goedert stretch the seams and get open around midfield. Carson should know the deep safety can only play one of these vertical routes, leaving the other one open up the middle. If he looks to Goedert, Ward is open. If he looks to Ward, Goddard's his guy. But instead of going back to a wide-open Ward on the left seam, Wentz throws a worm burner to Jalen Reagor on a comeback route for an incomplete pass. Another blown opportunity in a season full of missed opportunities for Wentz and the Eagles offense. All right, again, a big thanks to our friends at Leverage Studios for that excellent Coach Paint illustration that they gave us. Carson said earlier this week in his Zoom press conference, Greg, that he does not feel like he's indecisive out there, and he doesn't think that field vision is an issue. But we also heard other teammates say that he was involved in a meeting in which he stood up and took accountability for his play. You tell me what you've seen as far as what we just mentioned about his mechanics and field vision.
I don't know how to say this generally, but I think he's wrong about his field vision.
I had a feeling you would say that.
You know, and I think, look, it's funny because until this past game, I would watch the games on TV, and obviously they didn't look very good on TV. And then I'd come and watch the tape on Monday, and I'd feel like, oh, I didn't think he played as badly as the TV showed. Mm-hmm. This was the first week where I watched the game on TV and came in and watched the tape, and I felt like he was worse than TV.
In what way? Exactly what
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And I think it started on the first play of the game. Okay, the first play of the game was an incompletion to Rodgers. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was a basic play call out of 12 personnel because they knew out of 12 personnel against the Seattle Seahawks that they were going to play cover 3. First play, it's not a third down situation, it's not a long yardage situation, it's the first play of the game, they're going to get cover 3. So they ran what is called a high-low concept. Everybody has it in their playbook. Richard Rodgers ran a little sit route, and Dallas Goedert from the other side of the field ran a crosser. Okay, it's a high-low. You're high-lowing an underneath defender in zone coverage. Dallas Goedert was wide open. The play worked. And Carson threw it to Rodgers, who was covered by the underneath linebacker.
Right.
Now, the thing that's so bothersome to me about that is that's the first play of the game, which means that was practiced. That wasn't, hey, here's game flow, let's see what's going on. Hey, it's the second quarter, here's what we think might work now. This was the first play of the game. They knew what they were going to get. And he didn't throw it to Goddard.
Right. So that means he predetermined in his head.
Well,
probably.
I don't know what's in his head. I
That's
can't
true.
speak to that.
But almost the evidence. The evidence.
But you know,
would
Trey, you know
suggest-
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is game planned. You know, when they come in on Wednesday, after the coaches do all their work Monday and Tuesday, with game planning and with the next team they're playing and the whole deal, they said, okay, this is going to be our opener because we feel look, everything is probability and tendency. Nothing's 100% certainty in football, but you feel pretty good when you study a team, because I've talked to a lot of coaches over the years, and they pretty much tell you, we knew we were getting this. They pretty much know.
It's been a little bit.
There were other examples too, by the way. I'm just using that. I mean, I don't want to talk for 20
we
minutes,
just showed.
but there were other examples.
Yeah, we just showed many examples of receivers being open or have the ability to be open if Carson looks a safety off, he doesn't do it. And so I feel like, look, criticism of Doug Peterson has been fair. I think whether it's route concepts, whether it's play calling, it's fair, but he does seem to get killed as if he has done nothing to help Carson out. And we just showed you, there were plenty of examples of wide receivers who were open, and Carson, for whatever reason, maybe he's been hit a lot, maybe he just doesn't trust himself or what he's seeing, isn't throwing the ball. And that's where I say, look, Doug, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
Doug can't pull the trigger.
They showed another example on TV, and I always wait to see the coaching tape to see if it's right, because you have to understand, sometimes on TV they can show receiver open, and of course the audience thinks, oh, he missed it, but it may not be part of the progression at all. It may be on the other side of the field. So you have to be careful about that when you're watching the game on TV. But there were other clear examples in this game where, to me, he just didn't see it within his read. Okay, that's the important point here.
So just talking to other teams when they look at Wentz's tape and what his issues are, and you and I ask opinions. And the thing that I continually hear is it's 1, it's 2, and it's 3. He sees 1, no, 2, and he throws a 3, and you go, why did you do that? It's what Greg's saying. If it's against cover 3, the cover 3 beater is the tight end. Okay, we talked about this last year, as a matter of fact. The Rams thought they found something in Seattle's defense with Gerald Everett when Gerald Everett was filling in, or it might have been Higbee, one of the two. They found something. And they exploited it. And Greg's talking about how the coaches put this stuff in during the week. Like, if you put it in and you see it, why aren't you throwing it?
Look, if you're playing zone teams, okay, and look, everybody plays man, everybody plays zone. It's just a matter of what the percentages are based on the specific team.
Right.
But there are concepts. The passing game is about concepts for the most part. Now, if you're playing man, obviously receivers have to be able to separate win versus man coverage. But if you're playing zone, there's clear zone beater concepts for cover 3, for cover 4, for cover 2. And all this stuff is worked on during the week based on tendency and probability of the opponent you're facing. So ideally, you're calling route concepts that attack and defeat the specific zone coverages that you're playing against. Right. The quarterback knows that. He knows when the play call comes in, okay, this is a play call. You know, we've worked on this concept, and by the way, there's not 1,000 route concepts. You know, it's just how you get to certain things. Right. So the quarterback knows, okay, hey, this particular concept, we're anticipating cover 3. Hey, if we don't get cover 3, because maybe it's the 15% the defense won't play cover 3 here, then I know either I'm going to go to my check down or I'm going to work the other side. Whatever it may be, you know, but that's all coached in advance.
Greg, is that play into the predetermined throws, which we've heard about? Is that something because he goes, you know, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I think all quarterbacks at times predetermined throws. Sometimes predetermined throws work because you get the right coverage. Right. You get the right coverage.
Right.
But there's other times where if you don't get the right coverage, you know, quarterbacks still just throw it. And then the expression we use is they're throwing it out of the huddle because they're not really seeing it. They say, here's the play call. That's my primary. I'm throwing it to him.
And that's always been my problem when I go back and I look at the film from Carson is that when I look at, all right, well, Press Taylor and Doug, what are you guys doing in practice? Why are you not showing those different coverages that's going to make him go through his progression differently? To me, it just seems like, all right, every time you're in practice, all right, it's going to be this right here. Get rid of the ball. You're going to go to whatever your first 2 reads are. But when you get in game situations, when they take those first 2 reads away, then now you're in panic mode and you don't trust your protection, and then things go just downhill because you're like, sack.
And I will say this, to play off what Trey said, I do think, and I'm just now reading body language, okay, I don't know what's in Carson Wentz's head, but I have looked at film for a lot of years. I think that there are numerous snaps in which Carson is anticipating pressure. And you can't play quarterback when you're anticipating pressure. And I think, Trey, you would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. You can tell where he's like, oh, no, you know what? I know they're not going to handle this.
Yeah.
Here it comes, and he starts scattering it. He gets a little, skittish.
Yeah. And believe me, there are enough plays, like I said, where we can point out where I believe Carson has not done well on many snaps. But when you start anticipating pressure and perceiving it.
Seeing ghosts, is that term sometimes?
Actually, I've heard he's dropped his eyes a little bit, which he's never done before.
Yes, I mean, there's only one quarterback in the NFL that does that and is able to, for some reason, still play great football doing, and that's Russell Wilson. But a cardinal sin for a quarterback is to drop your eyes.
All right. We are going to get into how much Carson's been hit in the offensive line in a second. First, we're going to pause to hear from our friends from Sky Motor Cars and the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merrill Reese.
Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, that was our friends at Sky Motor Cars. Adam, I know you know Brett Schulter very well, and it's a great place.
As a matter of fact, Sky Motors, I don't know if people know this, but they do a majority of their business online through the internet. So go to their website, SkyMotorCars.com, and you know what? If you don't live in the Philly area, don't worry about it, because you could get your car just by ordering online and talking to them.
All right, there you go. Also, thanks to Sky Motor Car, we're going to give away an autographed Carson Wentz jersey. Right now, go to @InsideBirds on Twitter for all the information on how you can win an autographed Carson Wentz jersey. That is @InsideBirds on Twitter. Real quick, before we get into Trench Talk, I do want to mention that as a result of the offense struggling, with Carson Wentz struggling, you've got Travis Fulgham now, only 4 catches for 32 yards in the past 3 games. Jalen Reagor averaging about 6 targets per game. I know that they would like that to be up a little bit more and get the explosion, but look at the snap counts from the last game alone. Greg Ward played 48 snaps. That was the most. That was 68% of the offense. Jalen Reagor played 43 snaps. Fulgham played 37, his fewest since he was elevated in that game against San Francisco. And then Alshon Jeffrey plays 35 and Hightower 19. When I see that Travis Fulgham's playing 37 snaps and I didn't see that Alshon Jeffrey is playing 35, I throw up my hands and I say, what are we doing here, fellas? What are we doing here? We've got young receivers that we need to keep invested, especially Fulgham, who you saw was very productive when he was the man. And now they're all giving up snaps to a receiver, Adam, who almost assuredly will not be on the team going forward this year. That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't have a great answer. I understand he's got a big contract. They want to take a look at him, but the guys who are going to be here next year, okay, like Fulgham, like Reagor, they should play the lion's shares of the snaps. And the other thing with Reagor is they need to figure out a different way to get him the football. They try the slot screens. They're not working. They're not getting enough space. We know the line is not blocking well. We get that. But get him going cross field so you can get him going forward. And for a guy who's only 5'10", though, he's really strong, as you and I know that. They got to figure out a different way to get him the football because it's not working. Here's the other thing with Reagor. Why is he not returning punts? Dave Phipp talked about it, the special teams coach. Maybe the best punt returner in college football last season. This guy's unbelievably explosive. He's healthy. Get him the football in that area.
Well, you want to talk about some changes that they can make that are not radical. You can not play Alshon Jeffrey that many snaps and continue to try to develop your receivers, Trey. And as Adam mentioned, you can put Reagor in a position where he's getting the ball in his hands.
Yeah, but with Alshon Jeffrey, because he has that big contract, that buys you snaps on the field.
It should, though.
I know it shouldn't. I know everybody like that shouldn't do it, but it does. That's why you see JP being forced to say, hey, man, you're going to play right guard and over Nate Herbig because he's the money man. That's why everybody needs to get over that. well, he's better than this other player. It doesn't matter. It's all about who's getting paid what. And when you have someone that you're paying several $1 million to compared to someone that's not at that same caliber, the person that's getting the lion's share of the money is going to get the lion's share of the reps.
I think I'd buy that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I do believe that plays. But I think if I'm the team, I might feel that way going into the year if he's healthy and ready to play and off the rehab and looking good. But when there's 5 games left and he, even in 35 snaps or 35 did not really produce, and he hasn't looked explosive, and he's never really been a guy who is based on explosive. At some point, I have to say I have to do what's best for the team, and I don't think playing him 35
And he looks like
snaps right now is
he's
best for the
laboring
team.
out there
Yeah.
when he runs. I mean, it's not a secret.
but
Alshon's always looked like this.
They're looking at, look, man, how much are they paying Alshon this year?
Yeah, but it's
Way too
almost
much.
all, you're going to pay it whether he's on the bench or not, and you've paid it out.
Yeah,
It's
so at
only
least
5
you
games
like, look,
left.
I need you to get out there. I need you to break a sweat. I need to feel good about cutting this check to you. So go break a sweat besides one.
Pride goes before the fall.
Greg, I want to get into Rager with you because let's talk about his college tape. What did you see from him out of TCU for the draft?
I thought he was pretty complete. You know, I thought he was a vertical guy. I thought he was really good run after catch. He was physical. He was competitive. There was a lot to like about Rager. You know, and I don't think I was the only one who felt that way.
Right,
I mean,
right.
there was a lot to like about Rager. You know, I think he needs work in some of the nuances and details of the position. I mean, and I remember marking this play, so I'm going to look right now. It was 3rd and 9 to end the second possession, where they threw the fade ball to Rager.
Yep.
Do you remember that? You guys
Yes.
remember that?
Is that
play?
the one he had to reach?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it
That was
not
actually
even-
a really well-placed throw by Wentz, by the way. But what Rager has to learn on a route like that is he actually was able to win, and I forget who the corner was. It was the left corner, so it was
Flowers?
let's see, Griffin. It was actually Griffin.
Oh, Shaq Griffin, right. Okay.
And he has to learn that when you win off the line of scrimmage, you have to bend back inside and stack the corner. You've got to, because he stayed too far outside. So that's a nuance that he has to learn because he actually won off the ball, and Wentz actually made a very good throw, but Rager never stacked Griffin, so therefore Griffin was in great position to make the play, and there was no room for the completion because of what Rager, in a sense, squeezed himself to the sideline.
Sure. No, it's interesting because I believe the TV broadcast made a mention on that play that he does not get separation on the play, which is not necessarily.
He did off the line of
didn't
scrimmage,
give himself
though,
an opportunity
and then he
to,
squeezed himself to the sideline, which took away the separation.
All right. Be sure to check out our friends at Philadelphia Sports Nation. That's phlsportsnation.com for all your latest on the Philadelphia sports teams, the Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, and the Union. Their goal is to enhance the fans' experience with their coverage of the team. They are for the fan, by the fan. So check them out on social media at PHL Sports Nation and their website, phlsportsnation.com. It is time for a little trench talk like we do every segment. Of course, Trey Thomas, the host of In the Trenches with Trey Thomas on YouTube. And I know that you went back and looked at the offensive line play from the last game. Adam reported this too from what he heard from sources. I thought I saw it as well, that Jordan Mailata, who went back to left tackle, had a fairly good game. He held his own.
Yeah, he had a solid game. I thought he did a good job. You know, he did give up a sack, you know, and it was the first sack that was given up because he didn't take the proper set on a TE tackle end where you had the tackle as a penetrator and is going to be the looper. He didn't take the right set on that particular play, and it ended up giving up the first sack of the game. But I thought overall he's getting better. There's a lot more that he can do that can make him like top notch. If he learned to shoot his hands just a tad bit quicker, he would be 10 times better than what he is right now.
Is it, when you talk about shooting your hands, now you've told us about Jeff Statland, how he teaches the offensive line position and the techniques. Sometimes I know you've told us that some of the techniques is you let the guy get to you first. Is that the problem that you're seeing with Mailata?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, he's always he'll let the guy just run into him and he'll sit there and just absorb the defensive end instead of punching. Now, when you absorb all the time, then now if you get any games or whatever, then you're all off, you're late, and it can get you off balance against a stronger defensive end. Now, he's big. He's what? I mean, to me, he looks like he's probably about 360
yeah,
easy.
6'8", 350, 360.
Yeah, you know, he looks massive out there. And, I mean, you get up against some of these rushers that can give you that butt and go, that can give you a butt and then you can transition out of it. That could be a problem when you're a guy that's always absorbing the punch or absorbing the defensive end. But I think that he's getting better. He just needs to learn how to shoot his hands.
Did you ever get a chance to meet or talk to Jackie Slater? Do you know him at all?
Yeah, I know Jackie. Yeah.
Okay, I know Jackie very well. And again, I always try to learn, things I don't know because I didn't know offensive line play. And Jackie was one of the few that actually blocked Reggie White well. And he always told me that the reason he did is because he understood leverage and how to use his hands so that White couldn't be proactive, because Reggie was always so proactive. Because we all would see those clubs, and you'd wonder how he could put a 320-pound offensive tackle, on his rear, but he did it because he just knew that when that guy lifted up his outside foot, then then you could just, and Trey knows exactly what I'm talking about, then you could just push anybody to the ground. But Jackie would always tell me the key when you block, and it plays off what you said about shooting your hands, is he would always get his hands in first, and then Reggie could not be proactive. So,
That's an issue, for Mailata, who's trying to learn Stalton's technique. Typically, you're taught the other way, though. You strike first, right? In other schemes.
Well, for Juan, everybody
Tell us about Juan's scheme compared to Stalton.
Juan had his counting steps. So I knew if a defensive end had his inside foot back, I knew I was going to get to 3. So I know I need to get to my 3rd kick, because if he has his inside, let's say if he's on the other side, so if I'm rushing against you and I have my inside foot back, I'm going to go 1, 2, and then my 3rd step is what's attacking. If not, it's going to be my 5th step. You understand? So if my outside foot is back, it's going to be 1, 2. If not, it's going to be 3, 4. So I knew based off of what foot you had back where I needed to go. Especially as a vertical setter. So if his inside foot is back, I want to get to 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm there, I'm waiting, and I shoot my hands once I get to 3 because it's timed up. We already know when we wanted to do. Now, when you're talking about someone against like a Reggie White, my God, you do not want to be a catcher.
No, not at all.
When you're dealing with a Reggie White, because you're giving up your body. And now here comes the bull rush. And then when you get caught leaning and you're trying to sit down on it, now here comes the hump. Everything else is just, you're all out of whack. So for me, for someone like a Jordan Mailata, he needs to learn the art of counting steps, when to shoot his hands, to let it go and just trust it, because that will take him to the next level.
What was your impression on Jason Peters making his debut at right guard with the broken toe?
I thought overall, when you look at the big picture of it, I thought that it was okay. It wasn't perfect. There's a lot of muscle memory issues that he ran into in that game where he started as a guard. It's extremely important when you look at their stance, when you have the stagger of your stance. So now he's in a right-handed stance, left foot is up, right foot is back. You never want to give up. This is going to be considered your post foot, your inside foot. You never want to give up your post foot where it's saying dropping inside. Because at guard, if you drop that inside foot, you're creating a lane to the quarterback. So you saw at times that he would drop that inside foot, which puts him back into a left-handed stance, which allowed, pressure. And then you saw that at times that when it came time for him to have to, when you have a defensive tackle that's going inside, you have to keep that post foot up so that you can stop the penetrator to give time for Kelsey to come back. He dropped that inside foot a couple times, and then now he tries to stop the penetrator. Then Kelsey gets crushed, and then now JP comes back. I thought overall it was cool. It was solid. When you look at the whole thing, it was all right. But then there were times where it's like, you know what?
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is 2 or 3 breakdowns and you get the quarterback.
Yeah, but I thought overall it was okay. I think that, if you give JP a little bit more time, possibly it could be something. But, just switching off that quick, I thought that I knew that there were. And JP has a habit of, he has this big wind-up punch, where it's like when you see JP punch, you see his hands come up and out, and then he shoots. That could be a problem when you're at guard because you don't have the same amount of time that you do at tackle.
You don't have that space.
The action is on you a lot quicker. And if you come with that big old punch, man, by that time a defensive tackle has his hands in your chest and he's already cleaned it. But I thought, it was all right. It wasn't,
He gets an eye.
It's all right.
Greg,
passable.
The way the Packers play their front seven, I don't know if how much you see out of it, but stunting games, things that Trace said.
I see a lot out of it.
They do a lot of that, and that seems to be really where the Eagles get hurt a lot.
This past
going
game,
back to last year.
Well, first let's start with what the Packers are on defense.
Okay.
Mike Pettin does not want to play out of a base defense, and my guess is unless the Eagles really run the ball exceedingly well early in the game, just start driving it right down their throats, you will not see the Packers play base defense, even versus 12 personnel.
Okay.
Mike Pettin is a sub-defense coach. They play almost 50% of their snaps in dime, about 30% of their snaps in nickel. They will not play base in my view, anyway. I really don't believe if it's Ertz and Goddard, he will not play base defense. So they're susceptible to the run. They don't stop the run real well, but he lives with that. Because there's a lot of coaches in this league, and my guess is Mike is one of them, who ultimately believe that if you want to run the ball, have at it, because more percentage-wise, you're not going to get a lot of 25, 30-yard gains in the run game.
Right.
And if you want to hand it off and try to go 12, 13 plays and score, good for you.
Right.
So he plays defense with the goal of limiting your explosive pass plays.
Sure. I'm sure he also plays defense knowing that he has Aaron Rodgers on the other side, that if they can get a lead, good luck trying to run on us and trying to get back
I
into
discuss
the
this
game.
all the time when I talk on radio shows about the Chiefs and how aggressive Steve Spagnuolo is, because he knows he's got Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
So when you have Aaron Rodgers and you're likely to put up 28, 30, I don't know what they're averaging, but it's probably over 25, I would guess.
I think it's 31.
Yeah, okay, so it's over 30.
Yeah.
So when you have that, you can play a certain way and feel pretty good about it. They also have a corner in Jair Alexander, who throughout the year has played both sides. Last number of weeks, he's predominantly been the left corner, hasn't matched up to a specific player, but he's played at a really, really high level this season.
Sure. Let's go ahead, Adam.
No, I was just going to say, in last year's game, in the first half, they ran the ball more than they passed it. Now, what's interesting about that is, remember, they got behind early. They had 2 3-and-outs, basically.
Right.
Didn't have very many success in the first 2 drives, but they stayed with it. And that's when Jordan Howard really took over and had a great game, and he and Sanders basically split the carries, but Howard actually had more and was very effective. I'm very fascinated to see what the approach is going to be early on in this game.
Yeah.
Do they actually come out, run the football like I think they're going to do? Or if they get behind, you know what they do, it's...
Right.
One of the things I think that we need to, look at as well is that because I know it was a big emphasis in the media by Doug, like, hey, we need to get more rollout plays. We need to get more rollout plays.
Well, he emphasizes it, but then you actually don't see it, right?
Well, they called probably about 4 or 5 of them in this game against Seattle. The problem was that Seattle took note of it, and they told their outside linebackers or defensive ends to rush upfield.
Right.
And they cut it off. So, you know what? Stop giving away the game plan in the media, Doug. Take a little note out of Bill Belichick's game plan. Just don't say anything.
Right.
Because know that they're looking and saying, like, all right, you know what? Oh, you're going to do a little bit more, couple more rollouts? Well, I'm going to make sure that, because in order for you to do a rollout, that means that the offensive line needs to zone one way or the other. And if you do that, then now your outside guy that's on the backside of it, jet upfield. And they cut it off probably, maybe 4 or 5 times in this game?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, too, Seattle is an interesting team. It's playing off your point. Seattle plays basically with a 5-man front because K.J. Wright plays on the ball on the line of scrimmage. Now, the Packers won't do that unless they're in base, and I don't believe you'll see them a lot in their base defense very much.
Right. Okay. Let's flip the switch in the trenches and talk about the Eagles' defensive line, because we know that, as we mentioned earlier, the Packers will be without their Pro Bowl center. They're going to probably move their right guard to center. They're going to play John Runyon. I'm sorry, is it left guard? Left guard, yeah, and then play John Runyon in the spot of the guard there. Eagles are full strength with Fletcher Cox. So you have to think, if you want to win this game, you want to slow down that Packer offense, that's where it begins. Do you feel like this is the big advantage for the Eagles, their D-line against that Packers O-line?
Yeah, but I think that the way the Packers play offense, they are really good on offense in the things that they do tactically.
Right.
There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of different splits with the receivers. There's a ton of play action. There's play action boot. There's a lot of elements to the Packers game, the Packers offense. So, yeah, if you just look at individual battles, do you say the Eagles have the advantage? Absolutely. But the Packers know that too. So we'll see how that plays out.
And plus, Rodgers gets rid of the football so quickly.
Yeah.
He can help negate your pass rush. It's tough.
The timing and rhythm of their pass game, and I've said this for many, many years, and when I first started saying it 4 or 5 years ago, of course I got ripped, but it was true, and now we see that it's different, is Rodgers had become purely a second reaction player over the last 4 or 5 years. He was leaving timing and rhythm throws on the field, and only he can tell you why. For whatever reason, I know people like to say, oh, he's bought into Matt LaFleur. None of us know the reason. But the fact is, he's playing within the structure and the timing of that offense this year better than he's played in the last 4 or 5 years, and the ball is coming out on time. There's fewer second reaction plays, even though he's more than capable of doing that, and you can't act as if he can't do it, but he's playing within the structure so much more cleanly.
And Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, the Eagles do not press, right? They don't. Their corners
They're
don't
not
press.
a big press
Right,
team.
right. And that's the problem. When you have a quarterback like Rodgers who's getting out 1.7 to 2.3, Jeff. If you don't press, you're just inviting him to just progressively get the ball downfield, and it's going to be hard for them.
And again, let's assume Darius Slay is healthy.
Yep.
He'll match up to Devonta Adams. But then you got some other issues.
Yeah.
Because even though the other Packer receivers, no one would consider them great, the Packers receivers are all 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", whether you're talking about Valdez-Scantling, or whether you're talking about Lazard, or even Equinemius St. Brown, who's getting snaps now. And so now the two other Eagles corners are Avonte Maddox at 5'9", and it'll be Roby Coleman, who's probably 5'8".
Right.
So now you have matchup concerns if you're going to continue to play a ton of man coverage.
And Tunyon, the tight end, who's a former quarterback and receiver, is an athlete.
Hey, you guys are giving the rest of the show
No,
away.
but Jeff, here's the thing. The Eagles are at a disadvantage here. They've got, you brought this up to us in the spring. The Eagles at some point, the jig's going to be up with these smaller corners. Okay? And right now, it's going to be this game, because they might have the tallest set of wide receivers and tight ends. And by the way, the Eagles actually wanted to sign Lazard coming out of the Jaguars practice squad, but they wanted to turn him into a tight end.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
But I know that was one of the big changes that helped this team last year, is that they came up there and they cut out that distance last year. Because before, our secondary would always play off on receivers. That was one of the first things that you noticed against the game last year when they played Green Bay and they got the win, is that secondary went up there and they got into the receivers' faces to kind of get out there and challenge them to throw out the timing of it.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that strategy comes into play today. If you're enjoying today's show, the quality sound, the bright lights, the fancy graphics, it's all thanks to our friends at Rebel Hill Productions. Reach out to Zach and Jim at Rebel Hill Productions today for a free consultation to discuss your digital strategy and content needs. Their email address is info@rebelhillconsulting.com, or you can call them at 215-668-8498. That's Zach and Jim at Rebel Hill Productions. And great job for them adjusting to the new studios and helping make this show
great partner.
go on. Awesome job by Rebel Hill. So make sure you reach out to them. Let's get into our other favorite segment. It is the time for our Manscaped Man of the Week segment. We're all going to pick our selections for the Man of the Game, somebody that we've all got our eyes on as the Eagles take on the Packers with their season on the line here. I'm going to start with you, Adam. I thought your choice this year was for this game was quite interesting.
I've probably done this once, but I can't remember which week it was. But I'm going to pick Doug Peterson. Why? He better, have his team prepared today to play on the road here. We know about he may be handing off play calling, but from a visual standpoint, he needs to coach his coaches better. This is something I learned very many years ago about the best coaches understand how to do this. Mike Vrabel, I'm told, the Titans head coach, unbelievable with working with his coaches every day. He's hard on them, but they respect it because they know where they stand. When you're soft on coaches, you're not getting good enough results. He's got to be harder on his coaches, and he's got to do it today against a defense and getting his offense ready. The Eagles have a lot of talent here on offense, Jeff. They're just not getting enough out of it, and he's got to coach them better.
No doubt. Greg, yours was an interesting one.
Well, I kind of pre-cued it in what I just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I picked Valdez-Scantling, the wide receiver for Green Bay.
MVS, they call him,
MVS,
right?
Yes.
correct. Because he's not a volume receiver. He won't get 12 or 13 targets. But I'm expecting that Darius Slay would line up on Devonta Adams, who I personally believe is the most complete wide receiver in the NFL. And I think you're going to get, unless the Eagles dramatically change defensively and play high percentage zone, you're going to get Avonte Maddox or Roby Coleman matched on Valdez-Scantling. And that 6'3" who can run, he was a 4.38 guy at the Combine, who can run versus a short corner.
Sure.
And I just think that there's going to be opportunities for big plays.
All right, well, we will keep our eye on MVS for the Packers. My Manscaped Man of the Game is going to be Miles Sanders, clearly someone who was a big part of last year's win in Green Bay and someone I think they have to continue to feature more. I'm a big, you got to crawl before you walk, and if you're going to fix the offense, you do have to run a little bit more and try to get your offense into 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, keep the defense guessing a little bit. And Miles Sanders has to be a big part of that. So he today is my Manscaped man of the game. Trey, who you got?
I'm going with the offensive line again.
Okay.
When you have a system where when you go over and you look at a defense right here, the Packers are right there at 16th in the league right now in sacks at 24. But for whatever reason, any team that was rated a little lower in sacks have come in and gotten 5 sacks, 6. The Browns had 5 sacks. Giants had total 6 sacks from us. Ravens 6 sacks. I mean, the Steelers got 5 from us. Washington has 8. I mean, even the Seahawks came in and had 6 sacks. It needs to be with this offensive line. And I think that our tackles, they need to stop giving away run versus pass with their stance. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, so I'm going with the offensive line.
All right.
Good point. You know why? Because most teams, when you're trying to develop some continuity and stability in your offense, and Trey can speak to this too, normally you don't do it by tossing the ball around the yard. Normally you do it by lining up and hitting people and running the football.
All right. Let's go into Trey telling us a little bit more about Manscaped right now.
All right, so jingle balls is to the walls, fellas. Listen up. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past. It's time to gear up and get yourself the gift of shaving this holiday season. I'm talking about the Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. This revolutionary company, Manscaped, has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their Lawnmower 3.0 has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology, so this trimmer will not cut your nuts. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. The Lawnmower 3.0 comes inside their brand new Perfect Package 3.0, which makes for the perfect gift this holiday season. It's literally everything you need to keep trimmed, cut-free, and smelling nice down there. And you don't use the same trimmer on your face as you're using on your balls. That's just nasty. The Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0 also includes the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why are you not putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? And yes, your balls do stink. Speaking of sweaty and stinky balls, I'm thankful for the Crop Reviver. This product, along with the Crop Preserver, keeps your balls from sweating, smelling, sticking, and those products all smell good. They're mainly will help to set the mood, if you know what I mean. The Perfect Package will also come with a pair of Manscaped boxers that'll keep your junk feeling fresh all day. It's time to upgrade those overused pair of boxers to Manscaped high-performance anti-chafing boxers. 'Tis the season of Manscaped, so get yourself, your dad, your brother, and friends the best gift of all, the Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code TRAY, TRA, at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you.
I was going to say that the flies on the wall here at Pinot's Palette may not be as conditioned to the Manscaped reads as our fly friends at Goose Island, but you own this place. Who knows what the flies on the walls say you do here with Manscaped material, right? I mean, if anything, we haven't seen anything. All right, let's move on. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers a little bit because we already got into it, but some really interesting, I don't know if you want to call it misfortune for the Eagles. I mean, 1 week after they play Russell Wilson, who was undefeated against them and remains undefeated, then they have to go play Aaron Rodgers, who has very good numbers against the Eagles. I mean, let's face it, he's got great numbers against everybody. And then a week later, if Drew Brees comes back, you're talking about 3, I think, of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks
future
in
Hall of
all
Famers.
time. Yeah, 3 future Hall of Famers, 3 nemesis. It's very difficult for the Eagles. Rodgers is 4-2 against the Eagles, including that playoff win in 2010 that we all remember at the Link when they were on their way to their Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. He has a 100.8 career passer rating against the Eagles, which is 8th highest all time for any quarterback who's got at least 80 attempts against the Eagles. And, of course, his passer rating right now is an NFL high 117.6 to go along with 33 passing touchdowns and just 4 interceptions, only 11 sacks. Trey, I think you counted 11 sacks in any 2 pairings of games that the Eagles have played this year, and Aaron's been sacked 11 times for the entire year.
You can just go over our past 2 games, and we've given up 11 sacks.
There you go. So I thought, Greg, and I want you to just speak on this real quick, I felt like year 2 of him and Matt LaFleur's offense probably had something to do with it, and you were kind of alluding where you don't know if it's that, but he's clearly back to the Rodgers that we've seen, maybe even better, scary enough, than we saw 4, 5, 6 years ago. And just from watching, it seems like he has a very good chemistry with the head coach right now. They're having fun on the
Yep.
sidelines, and that's important.
You
Clearly,
almost, well, it's funny. You kind of lose sight sometimes of just how great a thrower he is.
unbelievable.
I mean, and he's got such a compact delivery, you know, and again, he can throw from different arm angles, different platforms. He's really accurate. One thing we should talk about, look, they can scheme up. It's a really well-schemed offense. You know, I spoke about the motions, all those other things. But the other thing about Rodgers is when he sees a one-on-one, he's throwing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he is aggressive attacking one-on-ones.
And
So-
such a small interception total.
Oh,
too.
I
He
know,
knows
and that's
how
the
to-
amazing thing about Rodgers throughout his career. For someone who's an aggressive thrower of the football, because he's not a check-down quarterback, for someone who's an aggressive thrower of the football, he doesn't throw interceptions because he's so precisely accurate. But if the Eagles continue to play a high percentage of man coverage, and keep in mind, this is a team that through, what are they, 3-7-1 through 11 games?
Yes, Eagles.
Has played over 70% single high, okay? So probably about 50% cover one, which is the man version of single high, and maybe 20+% of cover three, the zone version of single high. That means you're going to get man-to-man essentially on the outside the numbers.
Sure.
And if Rodgers sees man-to-man outside the numbers, he turns it loose. And you know, he doesn't care. You know, he's got Devontae Adams too. You know, he'll throw it.
Would you play more zone this game if you were Jim Schwartz? Would you start changing it up a little bit?
I would, because I think you got some matchup issues. Leave Devontae Adams aside. If you feel good about Darius Slay, and by the way, I thought Darius Slay ultimately played better than Metcalf's numbers last week. I thought he was highly competitive, but put aside Devontae Adams, I think you've got some matchup issues with the other corners. So I would, but we'll see what happens.
Sure. Getting back, because I want to get into that matchup in a second, but getting back to Rodgers, well, I've been ripped for saying it. As far as me, from my eyes, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback with the package of everything you need to really excel at the position like Aaron Rodgers. I've seen Montana, seen Brady. They all check out great boxes. They're all champions multiple times.
Mahomes is pretty good now.
Mahomes is excellent.
He's different now.
I would like to see Mahomes for 8, 9, 10 years.
Right.
But I've always said I think Aaron Rodgers is. If you were to design the perfect quarterback, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Well, you know
he does
what's
everything well.
What's so funny about that is I remember watching him coming into college. And obviously it was the 24th pick, not the first pick. And he played for Jeff Tedford in college at Cal.
Oh, I remember.
And Jeff Tedford, and again, you know, he's been doing this a long time, but he's got this thing with quarterbacks where on their drop, they would hold the ball literally up around their nose. And if you do that, there's nothing you can do athletically with your hands this high.
Right.
You know, you just can't. And I would sit and watch tape with Jaws, and we'd look at each other and say, the second he gets in the NFL, that's going to be changed. And you know what? The second he got into the NFL,
And guess what?
that was
I
changed.
asked in 2002, whenever Tebow was in the draft, I asked Mike McCarthy this at the Combine. I said, Coach, what would you do if you were coaching Tim Tebow? He said, listen, I can't really relate to that. But the first thing that I did when I got Aaron Rodgers is I changed his carriage point.
Yeah.
As you just said.
Yeah.
And remember, he said carriage point. That's the first,
Carriage, that's the
carriage
term.
point.
I didn't say it because I didn't know if anybody
It's
would.
the first time I'd ever heard that,
Yeah.
and I got quoted in the Associated Press.
It's ball
which is my
carriage.
question.
That's what they call it. It's ball carriage.
I said we had to lower it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. John T. Filippo, when he became the Eagles' quarterbacks coach, felt that Wentz had it too low. He goes, the process was taking too long, so I moved it up.
Right.
To shorten it up. But now Wentz's mechanics, though, his elbow and his arm slot are messed up.
Well, Wentz had a lot of fumbles too. If you hold the ball too low, you kind of.
But just think about, and Trey can speak to this because it's true, for any athletic movement, if your hands are too high, you can't really do anything athletically at a high level.
By the way, you mentioned Mahomes. I kind of feel like we might be trending toward a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rose Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. I mean, if that's what it winds
That
up
would be,
being,
that would be incredible.
But Rodgers
I'll
is-
take the over.
Yeah, Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly.
I just love Rodgers' temperament, though,
Yeah.
as a quarterback. Like, I love his mindset. He just has that I'm coming here to destroy everybody and cut your heart out
Quietly.
type of mentality. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about him, in that confidence
Yeah.
at quarterback. You know, Brady is, he's cool, he's going to go out there, but Aaron Rodgers just has a totally different aura about him when he steps out there on that field. And that's what I like about him as a player, And he's a lot faster than what a lot of people think, when he gets out of the pocket. And he's extremely accurate on the run. But I just love his mentality when he steps out there on that field.
All right, you were mentioning Devontae Adams, who had an amazing game against the Eagles last year before getting hurt. I believe he had 180 yards through 3 quarters, right? And then he wound up getting
He's
hurt.
had good games against the Eagles, because I remember a few years ago, I think it was a Monday nighter,
Yeah.
he had a really good game as well.
Yes, he did. I feel like I've seen so many good individual efforts.
I love him.
We were talking about this on the podcast. I still remember Roy Williams against the Eagles. I forget what year it was. They wore the funky uniforms in that game. The wider for the Lions. It was John Kitna or Roy Williams.
Was that the same game as the Kevin Curtis game?
That was the same game for
yeah,
Kevin
that was.
Curtis?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I was
yellow jerseys.
Yeah.
I was there for Kenny Britt and the
you were on the team then.
180
Yeah, I was
yards
on
and
the
3
With the
touchdowns
Titans.
of the Titans. I just, a couple of times now for the last 5 or 6 years, you've seen some really big efforts against the Eagles from wide receivers, and obviously.
Well, I think
Devontae
Adams, if we're still talking about him, I
Yep.
think Adams, to me, I don't think anybody gets off press coverage better than Devontae Adams. I think he's a master at it.
Physical.
Is it the
Strong
hands? How does he
hand
do it?
usage, or-
Yeah.
He does it in numerous ways. I remember talking to Mike Quick years ago, about getting off press, and there's many ways to do it. There's not just one way, and he's mastered them all. He can do it with his hands, with physicality. He can do it with short area quickness, but he is so hard to press.
All right. We just mentioned that the Eagles don't press a lot, although you said last game they did come up on him a little more.
Well, I
or
mean,
Trey?
this past week we saw Slay in press position a number of snaps against Metcalf.
Right.
I mean, Metcalf's hard to jam because he's 6'4", 230.
He's just an animal.
He's an animal, yeah.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, but I think that when you go back and you look at what was the big difference against the game against Green Bay, was it last year that they played?
Yeah,
There was.
Yeah, so
Thursday
you
night.
saw that they cut that space down. Before you'd always see our cornerbacks give like 10, 15 yards to the receivers, but against Green Bay, you knew that going up against Aaron Rodgers, that you're going to have to cut that space down because he'll take whatever you're going to give him. I mean, you give a receiver that much space to go ahead and work something open, Aaron Rodgers, bam, and just work you right down the field. And then, it's something to be said about having a quarterback that has the entire playbook at the line of scrimmage.
But he can pretty much do what he wants.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. He
autonomy.
can see some check and call something that, most of the times, quarterbacks have one player or two that they can check out of. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers that's up there that has the entire playbook at the line of scrimmage.
And it's funny, being in NFL films, we've wired him, so I've seen his wires. When he's at the line of scrimmage, with the cadence, he is so calm in the way he does it. I mean, even if he's changing something, it never seems like he's in a hurry. He's just a guy who has a total feel, and he's in total control.
Also, very good with the cadence and drawing teams
Oh,
off
yeah.
sides.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
And we've seen that's been an issue for the Eagles the last few weeks. They're jumping off sides a lot.
Yeah, I think that's across the board in the league, because with, when you don't have the fans in the stadium, now you're paying attention to the quarterback's cadence.
Well, that's all you can hear.
Yeah, because that's all you can hear. Before, it was all the noise and everything.
It's kind of
that's
cool,
going
to be
on.
honest with you,
Yeah.
because as those of us who love the game, all of us here, we don't always get to hear that with the fans here because it's so darn loud.
Right.
And it's kind of funny that when Derek Carr was calling out these names, like, what is he saying?
Right.
Gruden, Greg, you know this. Gruden gives these.
Oh, yeah.
You might call it a sitcom. Jefferson. I remember
Right.
years ago we were looking at that.
Well, a lot
Stafford,
of- a lot of
Stafford
teams-
calls out Kershaw because they
Well,
go
I-
back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of teams give names that they know the players. It could be the name of a rap song because they know the players will relate to it. It's just something to keep guys, mentally into it.
Yeah. Real quick, Adam, because, obviously Howie Roseman tried to get Darius Slay last year when they were having that issue, as you reported that at the deadline. It didn't happen. Then he wound up, I think a third and a fifth was a very good compensation to have to get to get a guy like Darius Slay.
I was surprised that the Eagles didn't have to go up a first-round pick. I understand Slay didn't have a great year last year. It was a situation where, talking to a couple people close to the situation, he just had to get out of there. He had issues with the head coach, other players did in Detroit.
Right.
And he wanted out, and it was sort of a divorce. He comes to Philly, they need him, he's their number one corner. I would say he's been good and not great. Greg, what have you seen from him?
I think he's been solid. I mean, the Eagles play a lot of man. I think when you play a lot of man, your corners will get beat at times. But he's definitely an upper echelon corner. It's not as if he's not a good player.
Right.
It's.
I think it's fair to say that the Eagles have not gotten beaten over the top by wide receivers
No.
nearly as much as they did last
That's
year.
what they
It was
said they wanted.
4 or 5
That's
times a
happened.
game. I mean,
Yeah.
you go
And
back.
keep in mind, I mean, again, that 52-yarder he gave up, which I guess you could argue changed the game to some degree. I watched that play 10, 12 times. I was trying to figure out the coverage because he played with outside leverage against Metcalf, giving away the post. Okay, and McLeod was the post safety, but he played very low. So I don't know what the coverage call was. I don't know if someone made a mistake. But if no one made a mistake, okay, let's assume no one made a mistake, then you're putting Slay in a really tough spot.
But why would he?
If he's
Then why would
going
he
to play
that
outside
technique?
leverage
Right.
against Met, you know exactly right. I mean,
When you play technique like that, it's because you think you have
you
help.
think you have help.
Right.
Right. And McLeod clearly, who was the post safety, because there was only a single high safety, McLeod, he clearly played low.
That's interesting because Jim Schwartz said during the week that he left Darius Slay alone more so than normal and said because we did that, we were able to dedicate more resources to trying to stop Russell Wilson.
Perhaps, and I'm
Which
not,
they
I
did
don't
a
want to say
decent
anything
job of.
about Darius Slay because I don't know what the call was. But if McLeod played that correctly, let's assume McLeod played it correctly, then Slay could not give up the post like that.
But I was impressed. They did a good job against Lockett because that was the guy I was concerned about coming to the game. We knew Metcalf's going to get his. But Lockett is so gifted. I thought they did a good job. And look, quite frankly, they kept the team in the game. It's the offense that needs to get it going.
Right.
My whole question in this whole thing is, and I know we talked about Schwartz. Why did Schwartz feel necessary to go up to Metcalf at the beginning of the game and say anything to him? Why?
Is that not common? Like I
No,
always see before games guys associating.
In my 12 years in the NFL, never have I talked to a defensive coordinator from the other team. Never.
Why would you?
Why would I?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I see play, in the warm-up.
Right.
Like, why would I? With everything that's going on, all the COVID restrictions as well.
Right.
Why are you crossing the lines to go and say something to another team's player?
Yeah, I've only said that I've noticed in warm-ups sometimes you see guys come out and commiserate with guys that
Shake
they played
hands or
with.
whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you know that
Did
player
you before the game?
personally,
Did you do that before the game back then?
what? Go out on the field early?
No. When you're on the field early, if you see a guy that
you're
you know
warming
from another
up.
team.
Yeah, but if not even not if it's somebody that I knew. No, I didn't.
After the game.
Yeah, after the game,
Yeah.
I go and say something,
Yeah.
but before the game, never.
Okay.
And never to another coach. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, whatever, I know that everybody's making a big deal about what Schwartz said. My whole thing is, why did you even say anything to him? Like, what was the purpose of that?
Right.
Especially because that's not someone that you recruited, somebody that you scouted.
Right, and he didn't play for him.
It's
I've
not
seen
some,
that,
like when you bring players in through the whole scouting process, he wasn't a cornerback that you were looking at. That's a receiver. Like, what was the whole purpose of that? Because whatever you said fueled him to go out there and give you 177 yards.
It was weird because what he said what Jim said at the time that you're not Megatron yet, but he was trying to say that's a compliment. The fact that I'm even putting you in the same sentence of a guy I
You
coach.
should have said it that way.
But it's a
though.
backhand.
You should've said it that
You
way.
shouldn't even say anything,
you can't
period.
do
I
that,
know,
man.
but Jim also has this history with goes back when he was head coach of the Lions of just kind of people misinterpret, the whole thing he had with Harbaugh at one point. Trying to
friend
slap
Bob
him on the
Like, he and Harbaugh did have a little issue.
Jim is such an intense guy, so you can understand if people don't know how to read him the right way.
Well, he won't need to do anything today because I think the Packers have got about 8 pass targets in this game that they could use.
Are you concerned about you mentioned Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's going to play opposite Devontae Adams. There'll be some Allen Lazard, obviously.
Yep.
How these guys are going to hold up on that end, because we've seen Avante, who I thought did a decent job against Lockett, but for the most part this year, he's struggled. Is this a matchup you think that the Packers draw the circle around and say, we'll go to Devontae, but we got to make sure to...
This was a different kind of play, but we saw Maddox give up the touchdown to Moore, and he was in good position, but Moore's 6'3".
Right.
And Maddox is 5'9". Now, that was a different kind of play.
Sure,
that
a
was
fade.
a tight red zone play, but still, it's a factor. But I think you'll see Valdez-Scantling. I think they'll take some deep shots to him today.
And can we just get to the point now where we know Max is an inside corner? I mean, at that point now, we know he's not an outside corner.
Well,
You've seen enough of him this year.
Yes, and I agree. And I love the kid. I think
Right.
he could be a good slot corner. He's feisty, he's competitive, he's tough.
Yeah.
I think he can play the run if he's inside. I think you can blitz him at times inside. But yeah, I think they need to get another corner opposite Slay.
All right. So this is going to be my quarter because this question is, with Slay having a strained calf, what are you going to do to protect him? Because you can't put him on an island.
I guess we're going to find that out.
Well, you see, and it's not like they have anyone's experience. Michael Jaquette, who's like, I know he's got size, but he's barely played.
He might be playing a lot today. Well, I guess we'll find
see.
out.
Yeah, we're going to see how he does.
Well, we did see him in limited action, I believe, against Dallas. And
I thought he was
coaches-
intriguing, but he's not. Again, saying he's intriguing doesn't mean he's ready to play 65 snaps.
Exactly.
Right. And of course, Graylin Arnold, who gets
a
elevated.
safety,
He's a
right,
safety. He'll see some time on special teams. Maybe he gets out on the field. At this point, you're also hoping the Eagles can get through this game without injuries, which they're doing a better job of compared to the first 5 or 6
Well,
weeks
that's
of the
not
season.
really the standard you're looking for, though.
Well,
you'd
for
like
them.
to see.
No, but they need, but they
lose
need
guys.
bodies against this team,
Right.
especially this offense. You need as many defensive bodies as you can get.
Let's get back to that running game that we talked about earlier, because Miles Sanders will be featured as their running back. We'll see as we also continue to wait for the inactives. Who else is going to be? Adam's right. Jordan Howard they elevated, so there's
Yeah,
no
he's
reason
gonna
not
play.
to.
Yeah,
he's
he's
going to
gonna
play. We'll see how much he's on the field. Sanders had 72 yards on 11 carries. That was over 6.5 yards per carry, and he's had at least 80 rushing yards in 5 of the 8 games that he's played this year. I feel like Miles Sanders has had a good year when called upon. Some people have said he's been disappointment. I have not seen that. I just feel like he's just not. He's been taken out of the game.
I know he's had some long runs. You know what? Those count too.
Yeah.
You got to hit it, and he hits it. He's more decisive is the word, but
Don't you
they've
think he
underutilized
presses the ball?
He is more decisive.
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks, I think he's been
He's
far more decisive.
Never been an issue, but the problem is that he barely touches the football. Trey, you played offensive line. Whether there was Deuce, Buck, Westbrook, whoever it was, when you guys got it going as an offensive lineman, did you start feeling it?
Yeah, you always start feeling that groove when you're blowing guys off the ball. Running backs are hitting the holes. They're making things happen. They're breaking off some big runs. So you absolutely do feel it. The problem is that with this team, they give away what they're doing so much that teams can key on it. And like you go back and you look at, okay, so you take away the first series that the team ran against Seattle, and that second play was supposed to be a pass. I mean, it was supposed to be a run, but
It was an RPO.
Yeah, it was an RPO.
Yeah.
But Wentz pulled out and threw and missed Ward. So then you come back when they are backed up, and the stances between the tackles changed so much that Adams was like, all right, you know what? Hey, all I got to do is just hit the gap. And then now you have a broken play in the backfield because they show run versus pass with their stances. So, yeah, you might be able to get things going, but you're going to show your hands so they know when to stack the box based off of how their stances are.
I'm curious from a play calling standpoint, because in the third quarter, they scored the touchdown going into the half, so they've halved the lead, or they would have halved the lead if Elliott made the PAT, but it's 14-6. Then they come out and they drive the length of the field. They get into Seattle's red zone, and they try to run a screen to the left side. I think on third down.
Okay.
And here's what's baffling to me, and I'm hoping you can explain this to me.
Absolutely, I can.
There's 11 players on the field, right, on offense? It seemed like 10 of them were all running that screen to the left side. And the picture, I assume, was the guy who's supposed to catch the screen. I think Boston Scott was that guy on the field at the time. He's still to the right of the quarterback. There's nobody there to throw the screen to. I felt like that had to be the most embarrassing moment, maybe of the season, if not definitely the game.
Well, with that particular play there, Boston Scott was supposed to leak off to the right and then break out left. Now, the problem with that particular play is because they did not block the protection first. Anytime you run a screen, you have to block the protection first. And then you bring Adams off the left side of this particular play here, all right? So now we're in slide protection. So what you have to do is you need to slide the line. If you know that Adams is up there and he's going to blitz, you need to slide the line. Jordan needs to take Adams. Isaac needs to take whoever the defensive end. Kelsey needs to slide over, block it first, then now get out into your reads because Boston Scott is going to leak off to the right, then go left. But because they didn't block the protection first, you let Adams come free, and then there you go, sack. Play is blown up because you don't block the play. And then all the offensive linemen, they're all in position, ready for the screen. Well, you didn't block the protection first. So, yeah, you all lined up, but everybody's coming free.
So there was too much traffic for Boston to navigate through to get to his spot? Is that because they didn't
It
block
wouldn't have gotten off if Boston Scott was in where he was supposed to be anyway because you didn't block the safety that's coming free.
So this is on the offensive line.
Exactly. It wasn't. That play wouldn't have worked anyway. Boston Scott could have been in where he needed to be. It didn't matter because you didn't block the protection first. You let a safety come through clean. There's no way that Wentz would have been able to throw to get that screen off because you got Adams coming through. I mean, he full tilt. No one touched him.
And to your term that you've taught me, He's a known blitzer.
He's a known blitzer.
Right.
So you should know when
Right.
he's
Just
down,
identify
you know what, we need to slide the line.
Right, right.
And you didn't. All right, so that
He's not
play
down
was
there
blown
for
up.
his health.
No,
No.
he's not down there just to kind
And
of
by the way,
out.
who would slide the line? Would be the quarterback?
Kelsey needs to slide the line.
Kelsey
But
does,
that
okay.
needs to start in practice as well. So, you know, you need to say, hey, man, listen, I know that we want to run the screen, but you have to block the protection, at least for 2 seconds. It has to be a 2-second count. Every screen is always 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi,
Then you go, yeah.
You know, so you have to block the protection first, then go. But if you don't, you got a guy coming free. They ran a TE or whatever. They ran a stunt up to the left side because they knew that we're going to bring the blitzer. And they switched off the stunt. Well, Jordan kind of did whatever he was going to do. Isaac got out into the screen. Kelsey gone. JP gone. But nobody blocked the protection. And then you got 2 guys coming free. Play is
And
done.
the other reason that's important, putting aside the O-line, critical, is screens. The whole point of a screen, and quarterbacks are taught this, their first 2 steps, maybe 3 steps, you're trying to make it look like drop back pass.
Exactly.
So if you don't block the protection, the quarterback can't make it look like a drop back pass. Because what you want, if it's not man coverage, let's say it's zone, you want the underneath defenders to retreat to give better angles for your offensive linemen when they do get out to block the screen.
What you're describing seems textbook. Like, this is what you do. So why wouldn't they have held their block as long as they needed
It starts in practice, man. I mean, when people say, all right, you know what, we used to be a good screen team, well, because we blocked the protection. We blocked the protection, then we went out into our responsibilities. And then when we got into our responsibilities, we had landmarks. It wasn't just guys just running out there and just going and picking a guy. We knew that if let's say that we're going to run a screen to the left and we're on the right hash, okay? So you know, as the left guard, you're going to turn at the top of the numbers. So when you look at the numbers, the top of the numbers is going to be that first, the first number, the part of the number that shows, that's considered the top of the numbers. So bam, you get to that landmark and then you turn upfield. The center is going to go probably like 2 or 3 feet inside of that, and then he's going to turn upfield. The third guy is going to check whatever is behind, and then he's going to turn up in the hash. That's the sidewalk. So you have to have your landmarks, but they don't. They just get out there and, hey, man, we might find somebody, we might not.
Right.
Who knows?
That sounds terrible. That's almost like haphazard. We'll go out,
You know
run a
what?
screen.
If somebody's out there, go block him. Go ahead, have at it.
Well, that was clearly. I felt that was a big moment in that game. They had a
Because
chance.
it was a nice drive.
Yeah, it was a nice drive. Had a chance to get a touchdown. They had to settle for the field goal, and then the defense played fairly well from there. I think they only held Seattle to field goals at that point, but that was a missed opportunity in a season full of
and
them.
you know they would have gone for 2 because the analytics would have told them to.
Of course. Is it because of the analytics
Don't
would
get
have told
that.
them to,
Oh, boy,
or
don't get that. Oh, that was an interesting. Yeah.
back to the running game? And Craig, you mentioned this, that Mike Pettin, the defensive coordinator for the Packers, would love to be in sub package all game long. Is that a reason? Usually you're a little lighter when you're in your sub package. Is that a reason where we've seen the Packers be vulnerable on run defense?
Sure.
So they're okay with it. It's the trade-off they're willing to make.
It's a philosophy,
right?
Without question. They
Right.
play number 24, Green, who's actually a very good player. He's kind of their hybrid linebacker safety. He plays in the box in their dime. He's a good player. He's an aggressive, tenacious, competitive run guy, but he's 210 pounds. So, of course, you have a trade-off. But they're willing to make that trade-off.
Right. Okay. I want to go through a few of the better run games against the Packers over the last 2 years because I think it's significant. Miles Sanders has the potential, if he gets the ball today, to do some damage. We've got Dalvin Cook in Week 8 of this year going for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns in a win for the Vikings.
Plus he had
I think
one.
it saved their
I think
season.
he might have had one a catch too.
He had a screen
He
touchdown
also
at
had a
50
screen.
yards.
Yeah, 50 yards. Week 2 of last year, Dalvin Cook again, 20 for 154, which is an average of 7.7. Josh Jacobs last year, 20 as a rookie, 21 for 124, average 5.9 a carry. Ronald Jones, Week 6 of this year, 23 for 113 and 2.
Yep.
Did Tampa win that game over Green Bay?
Yes,
Was that
they
one?
Crushed
Killed
them. Green Bay got up early.
That's right.
They
Threw a
killed
pick
them.
6.
Yeah.
A-Rod threw
All right,
yeah,
so
picks
the
and changed
Vikings
game.
saved their season with a win using the run. Tampa Bay as well. James Robinson of the Jaguars had 23 of 109. We know he's an undrafted rookie who went over 109. So you got to feel like the opportunity is there for Miles Sanders today to have success, even if you fall behind where you can stick to it.
But it comes back to what we said earlier. Pettine lives with that because the feeling is that if you run the ball, you don't necessarily put up 28, 30 points, and we're going to put up 28 or 30 points.
Well, the Vikings had 4 touchdowns from Cook, so they put up a lot of points in that game.
Right, but I mean,
Generally.
Yeah,
generally.
But no, the philosophy is correct. That is true. I want to get to you real quick
We
on Jordan.
abandoned the run in 100% downfall in Cleveland. We abandoned the run.
Well, because Sanders fumbled after 8, they had 8 consecutive runs on the first drive.
And they moved the
were
ball like
going
crazy,
right down
right.
the field,
Fumbles.
and then unfortunately fumbles inside the 5-yard line, and
we're
then
like,
they abandoned the run.
That's it. We're
And the
done with
thing
the run.
is, it was not like until the fourth quarter they were out of the game.
Yeah.
Right. It's just they have a philosophy. In the years past, it's worked. Typically, you come out throwing early, but when you have success, you would think they would stay with it. But this particular game, they had no success, but he only had 6 carries. That's the problem.
Just
So,
6.
but Doug said something interesting when he was like, I see the game and call the game through the eyes of a quarterback.
What does that mean?
What quarterback wants to hand off the ball?
Yeah. Want to throw it? Okay.
Yeah, you know, they like to see the ball fly.
I would think one that's getting hit like 6 or 7 times a game
Nah,
at
but they
least
still
might
like
want
to
to,
throw it.
you know,
They like to
give
air
the.
it out.
You as an
Little
offensive
handoff.
line playing for Andy as much as they wanted to throw the football. Did it bother you? Or you just cared about, hey,
I
this
like
is a
pass
play?
protection. I personally like pass protecting.
You
Way
did?
better than run blocking.
Really?
I
Really?
struggled as a
Usually I
run
don't hear
blocker.
that.
Would you
Okay.
say that that's
Wow.
not usual for an
I
O-line?
always felt like because of my height, that
I
I
see.
struggled as a
Yeah,
run
yeah,
blocker. I
yeah.
felt like as a pass protector was much better for me.
Right.
And,
Okay.
you know, and it's
Got it.
because, I mean, I'm 6'7", 6'8" out there, you know, dealing with
Did
some
you
of these
ever, curious question,
interesting.
when you came out of Florida State, did you ever look at people's evaluations of you, or did you not care about
I
that?
didn't
or-
care about that. Yeah.
Because I can't remember, to be honest, because it was before I was doing college tape. So I would wonder if people, when you came out, if they said, oh, he's not a good run blocker.
Right.
'cause
Yeah,
you-
I'm
I don't
pretty
know
sure they
that. I
probably
can't
did.
remember.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
probably
right.
said, because even at Florida State, we ran no huddle. We were always in
Right.
a 2-point stand, so it really
Right.
didn't, you know. I
Right,
mean,
so you did not play in a 3-point stance. So you didn't really come off the ball.
No. I was always, and I struggled with run blocking, and that's why I just felt like as a pass protector, I would much rather pass protect.
Right.
And that's just what I felt like I was
Right.
better at.
I'm sure in this day of micro-analysis on pre-draft that they probably.
Someone could find it. I remember
Probably
they
someone mentioned that.
some book found Ryan Grigson's. Where did he go to Purdue or some one of those
Yeah.
Midwest schools? And they found his scouting report. In fact, Grigson held it up, and it might have been Joe Buck.
Yeah,
the late
yeah.
Joe Bucksbaum's book, but.
I think they said
we
I
need
had
to
small
We need to
ankles.
find this. Oh, what size hands
I
do you
think
have?
I don't know, but I think they said I had small ankles.
Oh, small ankles.
Oh, yeah,
oh,
ankles,
small. I
like
think
my
you said
ankles were
hands.
small.
Whatever
Yeah,
that.
was
I don't
good
even
for
know.
Speed.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I know.
Small ankles.
Exactly. What is for a lot?
I'm going to now refer to you as former Eagles Pro Bowl left tackle with the small ankles.
Ankles.
Small
Trey
ankles.
Thomas. All right, real quick on Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Adam, you mentioned that, you know, he wasn't doing well in Miami. That's why he's here. You know, he's signed to the
Really
practice
weird
squad.
marriage between Chan Gailey. The word I got is from like almost day one. He's like, this is not going to work. You would think the front office would decide to pay him $4.5 million a year, no matter what. He gets $4.5 million this season. You know, the Eagles actually had interest in bringing him back, but it was a non-starter. They can only give him, as we reported in the spring when we talked to Carlos Hyde, they were only going to pay whoever they would sign $1.5 million, and that was never something that they even got into with Howard because he knew he was going to make more money.
Right.
But they like this player. They felt before he had the stinger injury, Jeff, they wanted him to be a main part of their offense in terms of the run game, and he was. He actually did pretty well.
Sure.
I was surprised at how well it worked out before he got hurt. It actually was a little bit better than people expected. You know, the Buffalo game, the Green Bay game last year, there were several games last year where he did a good job, and it was a pretty good 1-2 combo. Once they got Sanders involved, that was a good rotation.
Yeah, it was. No, the injury wound up being kind of a gift and a curse. Obviously, it took away part of their strong 1-2 punch that was developing, but it did enable the coaches to then put the ball in the hands of Miles Sanders
Yes.
and then discover that they've really got something special in him if they can keep him healthy. And we'll see exactly today how they divvy up these carries and what kind of involvement that both of those running backs have. Before we get into finishing off on our predictions, I do want to talk about the Eagles linebacker situation. You know, with Alex Singleton playing and with Nate Gary on the sidelines here and with TJ Edwards back, it feels like they've found stability. We haven't talked about them in a negative light the way we have in the first 5 or 6 weeks.
It's always good, Jeff, when you don't talk about the linebackers. It means that they must be playing better, right?
It's like the
They're
offensive
not the
linemen.
story.
When you don't point them out, then
Were they not the story of this team on defense for the first
absolutely.
I think Singleton
every
has
week.
played very
Yeah,
well.
he's been a great find for them.
Right.
Yep.
I do wonder, and I've said this a couple of times, eventually, though, you start to get into that rhythm. But these guys are not still in my opinion, I don't think that you're going to expect to win a whole lot or have a great defense with those as your starting linebackers, unless you have a great defense around them. And I wonder if a matchup today against Robert Tonyan, where next week we're kind of talking about, oh, that was the difficult matchup.
They've done better against tight ends since that awful start where they gave up 5 touchdowns in like the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, Higbee had 3, Logan Thomas,
and the
right, had
guy
1.
that I thought would do it this year, if we were just looking at the matchup down the road, would be Aaron Jones, but they're not really using him a lot in the pass game. For whatever reason, Jones has not been a high-volume catcher. Last year, he was killing teams in the pass game.
Right.
But this year he's not. But this would be, Greg, a game where
Right.
I would get after the linebackers.
They could look at Jones this week. That could be a matchup for sure.
What about Tonyan? I mean, he's obviously been someone that the quarterback trusts a lot now. Do they line him up kind of everywhere and try to get him on that linebacker?
Well, then it depends on personnel, because what happens is, obviously, if they're in 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers and Tonyan's the tight end, and the Eagles were to play man, it would not be a linebacker on, it would likely be the strong safety.
Sure.
He can be.
That's why I asked,
Right.
does he do most of his damage from in line?
He lines up all over.
Because they play Mercedes Lewis a lot.
Yeah,
correct?
they're very multiple with their formations.
Right.
They're not a static offense by any stretch of the imagination.
They could do 11 or 12.
Yeah,
And Jay Sternberger, who is a guy I know we all like.
I like him.
He's not playing a lot, right?
He doesn't play a ton of snaps, but he
Right.
catches some balls here and there.
Man, it's amazing that Mercedes Lewis is still playing.
I
know,
played with him
right?
in
Senior Bowl guy.
Jacksonville.
I saw him Senior Bowl.
Was he in Jacksonville when
Yeah,
you went
he was
down
in
there?
Jacksonville
Oh, my
when I
goodness
was there
gracious.
with him. So I'm
Wow.
like, man, and I've been retired now for about 10 years now, 10, 11 years, 12
Well,
years.
he's in
Yeah.
something like his 14th or 15th year.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
First
man.
round pick out of UCLA.
If I'm not mistaken, he's enormous, right? I mean, isn't he a big
6'7"?
dude?
Yeah,
6'7"?
he's huge. Yeah, I mean,
I guess
yeah,
not
he's
to you
probably-
because you're
No,
enormous
he's
as
probably
well,
about
but-
my height, you know, because back then Jacksonville did have like 2 tight ends that were about that same size.
Yeah, they had
like
another one,
6'7",
right?
6'8", you know, something like that. Man, they were huge. I mean, Mercedes.
So what year were you in Jacksonville?
2008, 9. Well, 2008 was my last year here. Then I went to Jacksonville for 2009.
2009.
Jack Del Rio?
Yeah, Jack Del Rio.
So,
Were
so,
you,
so
were you a
let's
fan, Jack?
It was cool.
Okay, all right. Just curious.
Who was the OC? You remember?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I know Andy Heck was my offensive line
Well,
coach.
got
Other
it,
than
got
that,
it,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Heck.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's recap. You slapped the cookie out of Jeffrey Lurie's hands
And then that was it for me.
at the
yeah.
holiday party.
Yeah, well, it was at lunch.
Or at
Yeah,
lunch,
yeah,
okay.
just regular lunch, and I slapped the cookie out of his hand, and then that was my last year here.
And then it gets worse by you have to go to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I had to go to Jacksonville. Then I went to Jacksonville, and then
That made retirement, I assume, an easy decision after that?
yeah, because then after that I went to because it was funny after Jacksonville I bought a boat, man. I bought a boat.
There you go.
Because being in Jacksonville, you just saw that Tom Brady bought a boat down there. And,
Yeah.
You know, being in Florida, you
Well,
feel like,
Jacksonville's got the water, right? It's there, yeah. You know,
man,
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
know what? So I bought a boat with
Nice area.
absolutely no boating experience at all. You know.
I've been to Jacksonville numerous
Oh,
times.
the beaches
Yeah.
are beautiful.
Yeah,
there.
it's awesome. You know, you can take the intercoastal all the way down.
Hey, exactly, yeah.
You know, but yeah, man, I had absolutely no nautical experience at all and bought a boat.
And how'd that work out?
Yeah, I don't have a boat anymore. After the second time I ran aground, my wife was like, all right, you know what? That's it. Yeah, no, you're done. You're done. You know, sail that now.
What did you get in place of the boat? Got a
Nothing.
motorcycle?
That was it. Yeah,
No, all
I'm
right.
still on punishment. I'm still on punishment from the boat.
I thought everybody from Florida. I thought it was requisite if you're from Florida. You know how to drive a boat.
Because I thought that, you know what, how hard can it be? Let's take the boat to Philly, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I never made it out to Carolina. So.
Wait a minute. You weren't trying to boat all the way up to Philly.
Yeah, how hard can it be?
Oh, my God.
How hard can it be?
Oh, my God.
If it
No,
goes
you
bad,
didn't.
you make a left turn, you hit land.
Right.
That mentality right there
Yeah, I mean,
explains
how
why
hard
you
can
no
it
longer
be?
own a boat.
How hard can it be? I mean, it's not like we're going to be deep sea. I mean, if we go bad, we can shoot a flare and hit somebody's balcony. I mean, I'm not going to be that far off land. So I felt like, hey, babe, you know what? We're going to pack the kids up. Pack the kids up. We're going to take this boat up to Philly. Man, I didn't make it out to Carolinas. And then, it was funny because I ran aground in South Carolina somewhere, and then that's when North Turner called me to go out to San Diego. So
Oh,
I had
my
to leave
God.
my boat.
Wait, so you got to call on the boat?
Yeah.
Who are you with on this boat?
My wife and my kids. Because I was like, yeah, we're going
Oh,
to
my
take this boat
God.
to Philly. Let's do it.
What kind of boat was this?
It was a 42-foot Sea Ray Sundancer.
Oh,
Had like 3 bedrooms in it,
Nice.
man. No boating
Wow.
experience
Wow.
at
Oh,
all.
my
Let's do
God.
it.
Wow.
Let's do it. Why not? Let's do it.
I love the
Yeah.
aggressiveness, but
I mean, let's go
no
ahead.
lessons,
Yeah.
no like calling someone
yeah,
else.
let's go ahead. I had a captain. He showed me the right
okay.
return, how to come back,
Yeah.
tie lines and everything.
It's like you take one driving lesson and you think you can
I'm
drive a
good.
car
Let's
cross
do
country.
it. Let's do it. We're not going to be that far out in the water.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
If we goes bad, make a left turn.
Could you
we hit
jet
land.
ski or something? I love jet skiing. Like that's,
Yeah,
that's relatively
boat.
safe.
Let's go.
All
Full
right.
boat. Full boat. Let's do
I
it.
heard it's really hard when you have small ankles to really be good at
So
driving.
after my second time I run the ground,
That's
she's
what I
like,
heard.
that's it,
Hilarious.
you know, yeah, that's it. You're done.
All right, with that, we will go on to do what we do best. We will make the predictions for this game today between the Eagles and the Packers, courtesy of our friends from DraftKings Sportsbook. First, DraftKings Sportsbook is America's top-rated sportsbook app, and they're wishing you the happiest of holidays. And to kick off the season of giving, DraftKings has new promotions and odd boosts every day this week. And luckily for us sports fans, there's an abundance of action taking place this week. Football teams are in the hunt to secure their place in the playoffs, while college basketball season is just getting underway. There's no better place to get in on all the action. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head to the App Store now because you don't want to miss this. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new players, the chance to earn a sign-up bonus to up to $1,000 when signing up using promo code ITB. DraftKings Sportsbook has endless ways for you to bet, from live betting to betting on your favorite players. They do it all. And to celebrate this upcoming, that's Saturday's UFC 256, DraftKings is giving all MMA fans who sign up now the chance to triple their winnings when placing any bet on UFC 256. So DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code ITB when you sign up and get up to $1,000. That's code ITB to get a deposit bonus up to $1,000 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, we've seen more underdogs for the Eagles this year than I think I can remember collectively in the last 3
I would think
years.
2016 they probably were underdog a lot.
Probably. That's a
Doug's
good one.
first year, yeah.
That's a good one. Even when they're
But like you said,
not
it's
so
5
great, though,
years.
it tends to be 50-50.
Sure.
And then we've seen some of the largest spreads that we've seen in a while. Right now, DraftKings has the Eagles at 8-point underdogs on the road. They're setting the total at 49.5. Adam, I think you said this in the podcast, and I tend to agree. I think 8 points is kind of generous for the Eagles, the way things
Based
are going
on
for them.
Exactly. They're not scoring at all. I would have had it more than that, but I just don't see this as a game that's going to be close. The only way they get this done is if Wentz doesn't turn it over and they protect, like Trey's saying, the offensive line does its job, it could be a tight game. But again, if you're running the football, which I think they're going to come out and try to do, you still got to score. You got to throw the football to win. Maybe getting Zach Ertz back, maybe getting Jordan Howard in here is going to help them keep it close. But in the end, because every game they have trouble scoring and protecting, same old story, I got it. Eagles 17, Packers 27.
Eagles 17. You gave the Eagles score first. That was
I
all
love
right.
doing that,
You
yeah.
confused me. So Packers 27, Eagles 17. That's 10 points.
Yep.
So you say Eagles cover, and that would be.
No, they won't cover.
I'm
You
sorry.
said
No,
eight,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
The Packers cover
Correct.
is what I meant to say,
Yep.
and that's over the 48 total. You always get on me, right?
Ooh.
4, 3. Let me see. 27.
Nope,
15.
44.
No, that's 44. It's not. It's under. I'm bad at math. That's why I do this show.
Apparently, yeah.
Don't trust me at math whatsoever. I don't know who's covering who and what the total score
There you
is.
go.
So, Greg, we'll go with you. By the way, Adam, you are 5-6 on the season.
Ooh, I gotta
I
be
took
better.
a risk last week. I said I thought the law of averages was going to
Okay,
kick in, and
okay.
somehow the Eagles were going to win. I was wrong, of course. So I fell to 4-7. Trey, you're 6-5. Greg, you improved to 5-6 because Jamal made a good pick. Oh no, Jamal picked the Birds, didn't he? You fell to 5-6. We got to have Jamal not picking for you because me and Jamal.
Well,
were the
you
only
mean
ones.
I get his
Yep,
pick?
that's what happens.
That's how it happens.
That's how it goes.
Hey.
Sorry, man.
sorry.
You got to
I
play
mean,
by the
those are the
rules.
rules.
Wow, wow.
We
It
can't
wasn't
have 6
explained.
different
Rule
categories.
of game
here.
picks presented
Wow.
by DraftKings.
I can't remember the score, but I know I picked the Packers.
I think you picked the same as I did. That's
You
interesting.
did. You picked the same
27-17.
score as Adam. So Packers 27, Eagles 17. Trey,
Man, you know what? Last week it was 6.5 was the spread, and you know what? I was like, oh yeah.
yeah, you
Seahawks.
said you're going to be real with the people.
Yeah, I
around.
was like, yeah, I'm going to be real with the people, and then I put my money on the Seahawks to cover the spread, 6.5. Doggone Dick Rodgers.
The Hail
Richard
Mary,
Rodgers.
the
I
prayer.
caught that.
Dick Rodgers
been
goes
a-
out there,
number
catches
85.
the
On a
Hail
Hail
Mary,
Mary.
and then you know they go for 2, and they backdoor cover 6 points.
So he's Richard Rodgers when you win your money. but when you lose,
Dick Rodgers when I lose my money. So
he's
you know
Dick
what?
Rodgers.
What is it? What's the spread right now?
The spread is 8. The Eagles are getting 8 points.
Yeah, no, I think the Packers cover that, man. I'm going to go ahead and go 30. We haven't scored out of the teens since what, the Ravens? So I'm going to give us what we got 14 points. So 30-14, 30,
Okay.
30. You know what? 30-17. We'll get
We're
a
going to
field
be
goal
generous.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Wow, that means all 4 of us, because I'm going to give my pick now. I have the Packers winning 31-17. Look, if there's one thing about consistency, as you mentioned, the Eagles have not scored over 20 some odd points in quite a while.
Yeah.
And all 4 of us are saying the Eagles are going to score 17. I have the Packers winning 31-17, so they cover and they hit that total right on the head there at 48.
Has there been a week, Jeff, where we all picked against the Eagles, or there's been one dissent? It seems like there's one dissenter each week.
I believe we all picked against the Eagles for the Steelers game.
Okay.
I believe that is, and the Ravens as well.
Okay, you're
Did
you're
the
inactive.
inactives come out?
Yes.
Inactives finally, all right.
No real surprises. Sudfeld, of course. Ortega-Whiteside. Huntley. Ford, who's hurt. Avery and Watkins. So no surprises there. So Jordan Howard is active.
Jordan Howard is active.
And Slay is active. That's the big
Huntley
one.
is inactive again, and this
Well,
was
that's
a guy.
because of Howard, for sure.
Right. It's just strange. You know, they claimed him off the waivers, and he was, you know.
And the other thing is, I
given him
thought he might
couple
be a
of snaps.
returner, Jeff, if you're going to have him active, and he hasn't even done that.
Right. So it's just kind of folds into the whole 2020 season of I don't understand what's going on here, and you can put Peters and Alshon Jeffrey usage into that. Adam, any last minute in case somebody's deciding between a 4 o'clock game for fantasy purposes here?
Robert Tonyan is the guy. Robert Tonyan is going to give them fits. He's an athletic player. You're going to see him line up in the slot. Greg was talking about how they move him around. Again, the tight ends have not done as well against the Eagles lately, but I think it's a function of who they've been playing. This kid's an amazing story. A quarterback at Indiana State, they move him later to receiver. Now he's a tight end. This kid's an athlete, and I'm expecting him to have a nice game today against the Eagles.
Did you say Indiana State?
Yes, where Larry Bird.
Larry
went.
Bird. the
Yes.
home of- is
correct.
that-
The Sycamores.
That is a weird
Sycamores.
transition to go
French
from
lick.
quarterback
Indiana.
to tight end.
No, that's where Bird was from. I don't
Yep,
think
he
that's
went
where
to
Indiana
Indiana
is.
State. Yeah. French Lick is where he's from.
Right, but I think Indiana State's in Terre Haute, but I could
Yeah,
be
I think
wrong.
you're right about that.
Yep.
Getting back to what you were saying, though, the interesting transition.
Yeah, from going from quarterback to receiver to tight end.
Yeah.
You know, this is just an interesting, way.
You know, Lane Johnson was a quarterback who went to tight end, who went to right tackle, who went to left tackle.
Going from quarterback to offensive line.
Like a
that was
college.
one
He
of
played
the
at
shock-
junior college. He was a
Who does that?
quarterback.
How can
yeah.
you do that?
Then you had Sapp from Clemson that was a quarterback to D-end, wasn't he?
Ricky,
Do you remember? Was it Larry Ball, the D
tackle?
the D tackle, the nose tackle? Do you remember him? Was
Are
that
we
his first
talking
name,
about?
Larry?
We talk about the guy who played
For Detroit.
Big, heavy guy. Got to be like 3.
Yeah, he was a running back in high school.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and he was about 350.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. He was a nose, right?
Yeah, he was a
huge.
nose.
Real quick, because we have an extra minute here. If the Eagles, Adam, if the Eagles lose today in an embarrassing fashion, if they do not score points, if it winds up being like what we're saying, 27-17, 31-17, you expecting anything? I mean, or is it going to be kind of a week of we still have to get this thing fixed up?
In terms of when you say expecting.
Well, I mean, we
anything.
know the owner's disappointed. I mean,
If any changes were going to be made, it won't be the end of the season. They have a high respect for Doug, but listen, when you disappoint the owner, we all know he's disappointed. Everyone is with the offense. Typically, and we've pointed this out in the past, despite making the playoffs the past 2 years, either coaches were fired on the offensive side of the football or their contracts were not renewed.
right.
So if you don't make the playoffs this year, with all the talent, they felt good about Rager and Fulgham and some of the other players, and you don't make the playoffs, it won't be
It
nice.
seems to me they would need a dramatic change.
Yes.
It's not just making the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, they need
Even if they make the
making
playoffs.
the playoffs
Yeah.
is so what in so many.
I hear you, but this is the way that the league looks at it. But I would tell you this, there's a lot of talent here, and they've underachieved. That's a fact.
You know, we didn't really talk about that, and that's going back to our original discussion about when you're a bad team, you are what your record is. It is true the Eagles are a bad team record-wise, but I think it's fair to say they should not be this bad. Like, they have players who are not playing well that should be playing a lot better. Same thing with coaches. This is not a Jaguars-type team where you just go out every week hoping to compete. You lose games, sometimes you get embarrassed, but you know your better days are supposed to be 2
Let me
or
ask
3
you that
down the
on
road.
that. If you just not knowing what we know, you see in the offensive defense, do you see them as a team that's 500? I thought 9 or 10 wins coming this season. Obviously, I was way off on that. I still think, based on just the roster, I think they're a 500 team. But they're not playing to it. Is it just injuries?
No,
Are we wrong on the roster?
I can't put it on just injuries because I mean, you know, every team is dealing with injuries.
Right.
Everybody's dealing with, you know, the lack of off season. So to me, you know, if you do bring Doug back, first of all, I think that you're not going to bring in the city their first Super Bowl buys you to the end of the season for a decision to be made. But if you bring Doug back, you're going to have to get some big name guys out of here that's been taking advantage of the system that's the precedent that's been set. So
All right. We're going to have to see what happens. A big thanks to our friends at DraftKings, Manscaped. Big thanks to Trey Thomas, Rosa Thomas, and Pinot's Palette here for allowing us to be here today. Thanks to Rebel Hill
Sky Motor
Productions.
Cars?
Sky Motor. I wasn't finished. I'm getting there. Big thanks to Sky Motor Cars, Rebel Hills, Leverage Studios, A Partridge in a Pear Tree. Everybody try to enjoy the game. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Sunday as we preview Eagles Saints. Take care, everybody.